is 6:30. And I would like to call to order the meeting of the Select Board for Monday, June 5th. Roll call vote. John Round,
Here.
Brian Solacey,
Here.
Kathy Bellata,
Here.
Ann Harrison,
Here.
and Becky Jakes is here. First up, we have public comments on any items not on the agenda. And I would say that if there is public comment this evening, I'd like to limit the total amount of time to 10 minutes. And therefore 2 minutes per person if anybody would like to speak on items not on the agenda this evening. Would anybody like to say anything? If so, please raise your hand via Zoom or here. Hey, nothing. So the chairman's report and action items. Looking over action items, we have most of those on for this evening, but one of the ones that didn't make it on was COA Senior Center. Are we moving that from this evening to the following meeting?
I hope to have a more definitive update for your next meeting.
Great. Okay, so we'll move that to the 20th. Thank you.
On the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee action, I was going to suggest that I'm willing to take that over from Brian as it relates to some of the closure of that action relates directly to the governance project. So if you want me
Okay, I
to,
think we're gonna
I'm going to rearrange that stuff
Yep.
anyway. Yeah.
Yep,
okay,
and liaison
I just don't
will
want to
be,
forget about that.
no, perfect,
Yep.
that's good. So we have the warrant articles, which we're discussing, and the school street sidewalks. Are we, is that tonight, or you mentioned we might be, I did want,
For more detailed discussion, we can wait for a number.
okay, because I think that we need to bring that forward. I've had a lot of feedback from people regarding curbing and sidewalks and swaths of macadam, and if we just for price comparison. So what, I think the 20th is already fairly full, but can we add that to the 20th?
We should be able to.
Okay,
Maybe, yeah, let me check with Chuck.
okay, and yeah, and if he can, great. If not, we'll bump that. But so land management, that's today, senior center next time, open meeting agenda tonight. The harbor management plan, we have that the following meeting as we do compensation study, police chief contract, water resource protection task force, and flag policy, and appointment policy. Then we move on to quarterly reviews, early July, facilities master plan, which we already had a little sneak preview of, but that's August. Okay. Is there anything anybody wants to comment on?
Yeah, just a question on the flagpole. I thought at the last meeting, there was an action to have like Greg and the team look at options for an additional flagpole for commemorative flags, and we gave them until next quarter.
Oh, right, not, yeah,
So,
Right.
I wasn't, I
that
was,
should be, yeah, that gets pushed out a bit.
Okay, so
we
that
were
should
separating
stay
the
on
policy
there.
from the,
Yeah, we've done a.
we've done a policy, but it was the commemorative flagpoles, I think.
And this is not that it's going to be done, but
Right.
just the exploration of options.
Mhm.
Just to make that clear. To everybody. Okay, anything else on the select board action items? Okay. Next on the agenda, we have board reorganization. And I thought we might save the liaison changes for liaison updates, if that makes sense to everybody. Or would you rather do the the changes after the board reorganization. All
We
right,
should
we'll do-
probably do it after the reorganization. Is liaison changes on here specifically?
well, that's
Just liaison updates.
liaison
Oh,
update, and then, so we're having liaison update, at which point in time, once there's a reorganization, we can see who has time for what, and
Alright.
if there needs to be any
I mean,
modification.
I would suggest that we probably put that should be something that should be noted in advance.
It doesn't impact anybody, it's
No,
not a public,
Not tonight at this point, but you kind of look down the list and say, this is what makes sense for me, this is does not make sense for me, et cetera, rather than having to make decisions right off the bat if we're shifting around on liaisons, that's all.
okay, that's fine. I would say if anything, if somebody feels that they don't have time at this point in time to do something, they can certainly ask someone to swap out, or if there's a better fit. So we can
Yeah.
do a little of that today, but yes, I don't think, it's a good idea, John, to give it a little time as
Yeah.
well.
I would want to look at the list and say what's making sense.
Okay, good. All right, well, with that in mind, it is time for board reorganization, and I would like to make a motion to nominate Ann Harrison as chair.
Second,
Any discussion? Okay. Moved by Becky Jake, seconded by John Harrison. John Brown,
not the first time.
in a long time. I know, I just keep thinking anyway. Roll call vote, John Round,
Yes,
Brian Solacey,
Yes.
Kathy Bellata, Becky Jake says yes, Ann Harrison?
Yes.
Wonderful. It's unanimous. Ann, would you like to make a motion?
Move, to nominate, I would like to nominate John Round as vice chair.
Second,
second,
Okay.
I second.
Okay,
Becky second.
I did.
Is there discussion?
you sure?
Roll call vote,
Never sure. Yes,
Yes.
Brian, Kathy, yes, and
Becky Jake says yes.
excellent.
Take it away, Ann.
It's a good time now,
well,
That was fast.
that's why it's put first on the agenda.
Okay, the next thing on the
huh?
agenda.
Thank you for your.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would
Yeah.
like to thank Becky
Thank
for
you, Becky,
her.
for all of your
Right.
efforts.
Thank you. And I would like to just quickly state that I'm very fortunate to have had privilege to act as chair for the town. It has been a fascinating journey, and I've learned a lot in many ways. Most importantly, that the vast majority of people in town are so supportive, helpful, involved. And it's been a real honor to do this. And I know that you will be exponentially better at it than I, so
Thank
Have
you
at.
very much. It's been wonderful serving under you. Thank you. Now can we go to the Boy Scout at?
You're fine.
Okay, yes, the Eagle Scout project presentation. Is there someone here for that?
Yeah, we have Ian online.
Ah, okay, hi,
Here he is.
great. Ian, unmute yourself and tell us what you're doing.
Can I also share my screen? I have a presentation, like a slides presentation. Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, we're working on the share screen thing.
Alright. In the meantime, while that's happening, I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Ian Carlin. I'm a local high school student, going to Manchester Essex Regional High School. I'm a junior, and I'm also part of Troop 3, Manchester. the local Boy Scouts troop, and I am a Life Scout, so that is the rank right before Eagle. So I'm working towards my Eagle.
Okay. Can you,
Yeah, you should be able to share.
All right,
okay,
this is what I've already said. So my project is to build a kayak rack, just like the one shown on the screen. This one is one that is currently at Tux Point. I'm going to build the exact same model. And the reason why I chose this project is because I just absolutely love the waterfront in Manchester, and I want more people to experience it. It's amazing. So these racks consist of a ton of 4x4 beams, 16 to be exact, 8-foot 4x4 beams, held together by a bunch of bolts, a bunch of nuts, washers, and the total kind of works out to $389.60. But there is a possibility that the harbor master, Bion Pike, he's the one who gave me the idea, actually. It's pretty awesome. He has spare materials, so bolts and nuts. So this total cost could actually be lower than expected. So these racks would be able to, these racks would basically add to the list of racks that the town already rents out to people for $100 a year. And so I made this graph to show the return on investment that this rack would bring. So the first year, well, it's a rack with 12 spots, $100 to reserve a spot. So minus the cost of materials, the first year would return about $800, a little bit more than $800. And then each year after that, the rack would, in an ideal scenario where all the slots get filled up, which they probably will, there's a high demand, it will return $1,200 per year. It will pay itself back almost double within the first year, and then it'll keep paying itself back by magnitudes years after that. So, me and Bion Pike have discussed two potential locations for this kayak rack. It could either go here next to pre-existing racks. This is behind Manchester Town Hall. And this is actually what started the idea for the project in the first place. People have stored their kayaks in the past, or other small boats, on the lawn here. And yeah, I mean, that just shows there's a demand for it, and we don't want people kind of like damaging their boats on the lawn or killing all the grass. And yeah, so the rack could go right here, or it could go over here by the boat ramp, kind of on this large gravel unoccupied space. And I thought that I'd leave it up to you, the select board, to choose. But we'll come back to that in a second. Oh, never mind. Yeah, presentation over.
Any questions? John?
Yeah, good. I think this is a good idea, and if the Bion says we need it, that we definitely need it then. And when would this rack be built? You've got a return. Is that going to kick in this summer, or is that starting next summer, or when?
This will kick in this summer. I fully intend to have this done by like late to mid next month.
Okay, in about a month or so.
Yeah.
And are you requesting funds from us, or does Bion have some funds in a miscellaneous category that he can probably help you with?
I'm requesting either funds from you, the town, or requesting the authorization for other funds to be used, maybe the authorization for the funds that Bion has access to be used.
Okay. Good. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good project, and I wish you well on this and your work toward the Eagle. I was at the Court of Honor last night when 3 of your colleagues received the Eagle Award.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
I interrupt just to ask Greg what the process would be to use town funds or harbor funds to build this rack?
So, a couple of options. Mine does have maintenance dollars that could be used. You do have a donations account. It has funds in it that you can also use. There's some dollars in the town hall capital fund. That could be, so those are your 3 choices. Obviously, it's not large amounts of money. But either of those 3 options are perfectly fine.
Where do the revenues from the racks go?
They go to the water fund.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Brian.
Yes. No, I think it's a great idea. I would let, rather than us weigh in on where it goes, I think Bion should be the deciding factors where the racks go and where the money comes from. We can make that decision. But I think it's a great idea.
Yes, just one question. So I absolutely support the project. I think it's great. We definitely need more racks. The 2 options that are here, the one on the top in the red circle next to the other racks, how close is that to the memorial benches that are there? I just wouldn't want them to crowd the benches. Because I'm out there literally every day, and a lot of people walk their dogs there. They sit by the water, and I just want to make sure it wouldn't be too close.
That's a valid concern. I think that's the memorial bench right there where my mouse is, right here. Like these 2.
Yeah, there are 2.
Yeah. If it were right here, I'd say that would be a good 20 meters away. Would that be too close?
Nope. I just want to make sure there was enough space there for people to, walk around the benches. There's a lot of walkers like in there. I think it's a great location right next to the other one. So that's great. And I agree with my preference would be to fund it through whatever avenue would receive the benefit. I think it's thank you. That's it.
Hi, Anne. Thank you very much. I've seen the one down at Tux, and yes, there evidently is a big need for more. We're having more and more extreme high tides, and is there anything which would anchor it to the ground?
Yes. When we were discussing this, me and Bion Pike, he offered an anchor, basically. He would supply anchor that we would dig a hole for, cover it up, and it would kind of root the rack to the ground.
Okay. And the other question I have is, or it's twofold. One is, what is the anticipated lifetime of the racks, and who will be responsible for maintaining the racks or rack?
For the first question, I'm unsure of the anticipated lifetime. I don't know how long the Tux Point racks have been around for, but all of them are in pretty good condition. So I'm assuming it would be pretty long. I mean, does anyone know how long ago the Tux Point racks were built?
They've been there a while now. that I know.
Some of the newest, I think, are about 3 years old, and there are some that are 5 years old.
This is 5, yeah.
So yeah, then it would probably be a little higher than that.
Mhm.
And then,
And you're using the same materials, is that right?
yes. What was the second question?
The other was, who's going to who will be maintaining them?
I was hoping to pass the maintaining to whoever already maintains the racks at Tux.
Do we know who does that?
So again, that'd be the harbor.
Harper does that. Okay, and just. Is this pressure treated wood that you're using? And the reason I'm asking is just the ones at Tux are set back a little bit farther. This is right on the water. Is there any concern with the chemicals in the wood leaching out? Do we have any understanding of that?
So I talked to the Conservation Commission a little before this, I'd say a week ago, and they shared the same concern. So me and Bion discussed it, and he let me know that there is a certain type of wood, certain type of pressure treated wood that we are going to use that doesn't leach toxic chemicals or any harmful chemicals. And it also is safe to the touch. It's the same type of pressure treated wood that would be used in a playground. So no, it would not leach.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ian, very much. I'm glad you already anticipated that and would just say wonderfully thought out. Thank you very much.
Is there further
Thank
discussion?
you so much for having me.
I would entertain a motion to endorse the project. Fund it from the waterways, from Bion's maintenance fund. And leave it to Bion to, cite the project.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I would just clarify, if I may, a friendly amendment that move the approve Ian Carlin's
Yes.
Eagle Scout project.
Thank you, thank you.
I got that from her.
Ready for vote? John?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes,
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Ian.
round of applause, Ian.
Okay. As usual, I've missed something.
That was my miss.
Going from the reorganization, we need to nominate a newspaper and and an alternate to be the official newspapers for public notices for town. And the Cricket has been our regular and the Gloucester Daily Times is an alternate. Is there a motion?
I move that the select board designate the Cricket and the Gloucester Daily Times as the alternate official newspapers for public notices for the town.
Second,
Discussion? John?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes.
yes.
Okay, now, the next item is a shuttle service business by the beach bums. And I believe you're a representative here. Would you introduce yourself, say where you live and tell us what you want.
David Martin, Preston Potter. We're both juniors at Manchester Essex High School. And basically, we just want to start a shuttle service to like give back to the community. So basically, we'd be using a golf cart to pick up people that just got off the train downtown and then bring them to the beach. And we wouldn't accept any money other than tips. Yeah.
If I might jump in, I just want to make sure that if you're not actually facing the camera, which you don't have to, you just need to speak up, otherwise the people listening in can't hear.
I'm going to stand over by the side. It's a little better. That way both audiences can see you.
So we currently work right now at the by the beach. We work at the beach, and we just constantly like
been asking like people that like walking up and down the beach, they're all like, oh, like we would love transportation and services because it's like a 10-minute walk. And we just thought this would be a great idea.
A lot of pregnant people that walk up and they're just like complaining. It's also like a health issue for them because they have to walk up 10 minutes. That could do some damage maybe. So
We have a designated spot right down next to Bravo. We
right in front
talked,
of Bravo.
yeah, we talked to the owner, Beth, and she said she'd get us a designated spot.
So we can park the golf
For
cart
golf
there.
cart. Yeah. So have like a pickup spot.
Question.
Yeah.
So where would this vehicle come from? Do you own it already or
We're going to purchase it.
you want to purchase it?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's one of those golf carts that I see running around Florida.
How many seats,
Six seater.
including the driver?
Yes.
Where are you gonna store it? On a nightly basis? Is that at home?
Yeah.
We started my
And I
garage.
saw the address here pretty close.
Yeah.
Right downtown.
Yep.
Okay. And the drop off is,
It's right
The
next to the
circle,
yeah.
well, right outside the circle, because you can't drop off in the circle. So there's a designated drop off.
Yes, there is, yeah. and these are the only two places.
Yeah, we wouldn't be pulling over to the.
It's not
side,
like
picking
you're gonna make it a
everyone up.
local
Yeah,
deal.
that's
It's
it. They're on
stopping
circle.
there and it's stopping
Yeah,
at Bravo
yes,
and
sir.
that's it.
Yeah.
But also being driven to your homes, which is where? I'm sorry.
North.
North Street.
I've got a couple of questions. And first and foremost is picking up at the beach. Okay, you said there's a designated spot there. That's also pick up for vehicles as well. And when people are coming off the beach at the end of the day, how many people have been planning on waiting for a ride? And how is that going to impact the other traffic? I mean, it's a great idea. I applaud it. I've thought about this for a lot of years myself. I was thinking of school bus about that. Knock out the windows. But then in thinking through the whole process, we're concerned about, I mean, if you remember what last Sunday looked like on Memorial Day weekend. All right, the traffic was backed all the way down, up to a Mascanoma Street. And you've got a golf cart full of people there and you have people waiting for you at the other end, maybe to get off. There are a lot of concerns that I have. And I'm just trying to process everything. But the big thing is how many people, if you say all this, we've seen what the train looks like, platform when people are waiting for the train to come. I'm just concerned about that. And then if we do have, and we hope we're gonna have more than one Sunday like we did last week. And that, I mean, I know that I turned around. I was gonna try to spin the beach just to check it out. And I turned around, I couldn't make it up there. So now you're gonna be sitting there with a golf cart. And now you have people saying, well, can't you just shoot up the side? Can't you do this? Can't you do that? These are some of the things that I'm concerned about. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and we have to think the whole process, I guess. what amounts to.
The golf cart it's like a vehicle, basically. It's street legal. We wouldn't like disobey the traffic laws. We'd wait our place in line.
Oh, no, imagine that would part of the year.
So it really shouldn't be like too much of an issue with like traffic because we'd just be like another car, basically. Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna look at the train schedule every day and figure out what times trains like arrives at the station, so we can like have someone to pick us up or we pick people up and then loop around maybe in another people, and like we come back down and get more people. So this would be more of picking up people, not driving them back down. Obviously, there'll be people that need rides back.
So you plan to purchase the vehicle yourselves or are your parents purchasing?
Our parents.
So your parents are purchasing the vehicle and then they would also then be purchasing any liability insurance?
Yes.
I take it you're one of the parents.
I have a question for the chief. Yep. What kind of license is driving like? Is it a junior operator's license?
No, I have my full license.
They both have full license.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's okay, right? One of my. Beach.
Right. You guys will get in touch with them.
I did get in touch with them this afternoon. They want to do a little more homework. So the question that we're trying to answer. So there's state law regarding livery services. And whether or not this qualifies is a question. And so under state law, I believe the minimum age is 21 for livery. But so the question is, if this qualifies as a livery service, then we have that challenge. And so I haven't heard back from them yet on that question. I don't know if you were able to do any research on your own on that, but I'm still waiting to hear back.
I just don't know if it has to do with, if you're charging for the service.
Right,
I think
so-
that-
So state law does specify that you're charging, and
Right.
so is this a workaround
So-
or not?
If you're, if we're working off like tips, stuff, if.
Right, so that's,
Services.
so that was the question I posed to them, is accepting tips a workaround, or is it really one and the same?
Right.
So I don't have an answer to that yet.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I spoke to, insurance companies and stuff, but they don't really, they're not involved in that process, so they're
Right.
just insuring the vehicle and the driver, so. I'm not sure on that either.
Well,
No, there- I'm sorry, go ahead.
part of what I had read was that when you're doing a situation like this, that your supervisor has to be 21 years or older. And the drivers can be 16-year-old licensed drivers. However, what it doesn't stipulate is, does the 21-year-old have to be with the driver? And that's because that's where part of my concern would come in, is we just don't have enough clarification, I don't think.
Is your question, what constitutes supervision?
Exactly.
So that might be if we haven't specifically asked that question of town council, that might be.
If that's,
But-
16 or 18.
It was 16 for the driver, 21 for supervisor, and just for decorum's sake, and I apologize not going through you, but all discussion is supposed to go through the chair. So sorry,
I
that's
recognize
just,
Becky.
thank you. But it was also in terms of paperwork and a proof of insurance for liability. We would have to have some sort of liability insurance proof before we can even go forward with this. I think it's a great idea. And I think many of us have thought of it and never quite acted on it. So kudos to you two for coming up with this. But for everybody's safety, we have to make sure that we're all abiding by state guidelines first. Is my feeling. Thank you.
Any further?
I did have one more question. There seemed to be two parts to the business. One was the bringing of people to the beach, but then there was also the rental of the equipment. We haven't really discussed that. And I understand there's some contractual limitation with the
Mhm.
beach supply. Did we get an answer as to what constitutes their area of
Well, certainly on the beach itself, or in
Right.
the parking lot, so that would all be.
so the
all-
parking lot and the beach constitutes the
Right,
contractual zone?
yes,
Okay. So I guess what I'm wondering is, part of the help that would be really helpful is lugging the stuff. Even if you don't lug the people, if you don't bring the people, lugging stuff for people would be also a great service. And I didn't know if taking that type of approach might avoid some of the legal hiccups with carrying passengers. I don't know, but if you're, if you
What I-
pick up stuff at the train station and offer to bring it to the beach for, I'm just brainstorming here.
I would say to that, it still creates traffic issues. People hanging around waiting for the material to show up at the beach, okay? Or the good chance that the material, the heavy stuff will get there before they do, if there's no traffic. All right, and that becomes a bit of a,
Yeah, like I
Maybe
said,
some nightmare
I'm
there.
not trying to direct their
no, no,
business
I'm just,
model,
I
but I'm
hear what you're
just,
saying.
I think the liability or legal concerns sounds like it's with carrying passengers. And if there was another business model you were willing to explore, there may be fewer restrictions. I don't know. I
May I
just
make
wanted to-
a suggestion, Ann? I don't think we're at a point where we can actually make a decision on this. I think we need more information. May I suggest that we continue this to another time when we have more information?
I was going to ask one other question before we close, and that is, the description did mention renting umbrellas and chairs. Where would you store that equipment?
So he has a house like right around the corner, so we'd store it there, we'd go early in the morning, just set up all the chairs, and then we'd advertise it. And then
Okay.
people would use the website to like book them. And then while one of us is doing the cart, another one is going to be on the beach. Going up to those people and just basically bring them the chairs. Because they would book it on our website.
I wonder if that interferes with the zone of interest of.
We would talk to the people that own the snack shack and see if they were doing something like that, because if they weren't, we were just gonna ask for permission to do it.
Or perhaps, Madam Chair, a business partnership might be in order, right? Maybe they could hire you as their agents, if you will, to provide this. There's lots sorts of business models here that might be good options for you if we can't make the full plan work, you know.
I have an additional question. Is this gonna be a first come, first serve, or are you gonna work out reservations, or you don't know yet? We'll see how this goes.
Golf cart or the.
Yeah, with the golf court transporting people.
Yeah, it's just first come, first serve, just right off the
Okay.
train. If people want to wait by the train station, they can, just come back down, pick them up.
And I understand it's not a long time.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you have a lot of reservations, I could see things can get a little sticky. You're sitting there and you're waiting for somebody to show up, and maybe they probably do, but that could create some clogging of traffic if you're waiting for somebody rather than, hey, this person here, I'm on.
Yeah, they should be right off like the train platform, and if they didn't want to wait for us, they'd have to.
Okay, or at the beach,
Yeah.
to the extent that
It's better-
reception at the
better be
beach.
First come, first serve.
Fine.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I did have an opportunity to speak with Cheryl
Mhm.
at Parks and Rec. And the police chief.
Mhm.
There are a lot of concerns as far as the getting everything together and coordinating things. And what I heard was perhaps a Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday. Doing something like that then, and there's concerns about the weekends and the chaos that might ensue on a really busy weekend. So I think that, and I'm gonna lean towards what they suggest with the chief and Cheryl as far as at least giving it a year of trial during the week and see how that works. Once we work out all the other particulars.
Sounds as if.
So part of the problem, just to elaborate that a little bit, is so like Memorial Sunday.
Mhm.
The traffic was backed up. So you're gonna be stuck in that same traffic.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna frustrate your customers and frustrate you as you try to service people. And so it's not really gonna alleviate. If there was another route you could take, that'd be a different matter, but unfortunately, there's one way in and one way out.
If people feel that walking is faster, then they don't have to stay on the cart, like, we're not like forcing them on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You can, you're stuck, they can hop off and just walk on the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But then you're stuck.
And you're stuck.
That's what I did.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons why Cheryl was suggesting, I think, maybe it's something we try out Monday through Friday first, before we venture into weekends.
Would you be interested in that?
Yeah, we definitely.
Yes, of course.
Can I
Um,
just say a couple things?
sure.
Just want to address the,
Could you state
Say
your
your
name?
I'm Kevin Potter, I'm Preston's father,
And you live at,
23 Norwood Ave. So regarding the safety, so the golf cart is it's street legal, so it's just like a normal vehicle, so there's no safety issues, there's seat belts. There's blinkers, there's hazard lights, there's a full windshield, so it's no different than driving around in a Wrangler, or Jeep Wrangler with no doors on, right? So it's a
Delicate drives.
right? And obviously, we appreciate all of you listening and trying to help them out. I just want to make sure that we're not, I guess, overcomplicating like what they're trying to do. This is just a way for them to kind of help people in town and maybe make a little bit of money on the side. So I think that they would be open to that. But when it comes to the pickup and drop off, one of the things that they didn't mention is that they're going to have walkie-talkies. So one of them could be up at the beach circle asking people if they want to ride, and the other one's downtown. They fly up, they pick somebody up and they go down. So I don't necessarily think that the golf cart's going to be sitting there at the circle, clogging traffic or anything like
It might
that.
alleviate some of that.
Yeah, might help alleviate some of that too. So
Thank you. My feeling, and I'm checking on this, is that we need a little more information about the structure of an organization that has 16-year-old drivers. And we would need to see the liability insurance. And we need to be sure that if you're soliciting tips, that doesn't count as compensation. I think those questions are sufficient, that we should probably put this on till our next meeting on the 20th.
I think, I don't know if they're interested, but maybe an additional question is if they don't carry passengers and just carry stuff, does that alleviate any of those restrictions or concerns?
So we need to get some more answers. I understand that it's frustrating. Because it's summer and you'd like to be doing this right now. Sure. But
Even though it doesn't look like
yeah, right.
Come on.
Okay, do I have a motion to put this on our agenda for June 20th?
Motion to continue this discussion.
Do we need-
it's not a public hearing.
Okay,
So-
No.
fine, just then we,
Okay.
we
Yeah,
can
just
just
take an
say,
action.
we have an action and we will see you on the 20th. Thank you very much. It's great.
Thank you guys for your
idea.
time.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good idea.
gentlemen.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the downtown improvement planning projects discussion.
I'm Steve Carr at Old Bridge Street, and I'm chair of the committee. I'm joined by my colleagues, let them introduce themselves.
Gordon Brewster on Windermere Park Extension.
Kurt Spitaka from Bennett Street. We have been working for close to a year now to plan an extension of our initial founding work down in 2008 with downtown improvement phase 1, which focuses on improving the sidewalk, the curbing, and the street lights for the balance of the area that we were delegated to attend to, which is from Pine Street down through downtown and then out Summer Street. If we look closely at the sidewalks and the curbing and the street lights, we find that the sidewalks in many parts of that area are cobbled together and haphazardly repaired. Bituminous sidewalks. There are areas, for instance, down on Beach Street, where there are no curbs or very minimal curbing, and the street lamps are inappropriate for a historic district. Quite apart from the fact that advances have been made in lighting. And so what we have done is develop, which we'll present through our consultant PHP. We work very closely with DPW to get a comprehensive plan, which we are reporting to you. And the committee recommends as a basis for further actual construction as permitted by funds and other considerations such as the culvert project, which we know has to get finished first. Consistent with those kinds of matters, we recommend that be adopted as a planning basis for the physical infrastructure of downtown. We have been very attentive to issues of compromises between improving bike pedestrian safety, accessibility for all, traffic flow, parking, feedback that we've received about some issues around prior curb extensions and how they are designed. We have been walking around town with various iterations of plan you're about to see with our colleagues at DPW, who have just been superb and supported, says our consultant PHP in this regard. And so we have spent a lot of time refining the details to present our vision of what the downtown infrastructure should be going forward. I would also mention that an excellent work done under the auspices of planning board on wayfinding and placemaking, which addresses things like benches, public restrooms, street art and things like that, which is entirely complementary to this project, which focuses on the hard infrastructure. And we look forward to working with the planning board very closely on that. Would you, either of you gentlemen care to add anything? I know Kurt has been on bike and pedestrian and has worked with us to look after that. And Gordon, of course, was integral in the school work.
Still out.
Still is. And I think that it's important as we think about downtown that we see these kinds of things all the time. That's kind of the way Manchester's always been. You know, various kinds of mixed sidewalks and curbing someplace and various kinds of street lamps. I think that it's a little bit like our newcomers coming to town could look at that and think in the same way that perhaps someone who saw the old school, well, these folks don't care about education very much. And we would like to say we care a whole lot about what downtown looks like, feels like, what the support is for our businesses and our residents there. And importantly, upgrading the sidewalks that will be outlined to concrete from bituminous, where that's the case, with granite curbing and with appropriately traditional street lamps. That also is speaks to the fact that the downtown area has much higher traffic than other parts of town, and it is very much our front door, our opening to the community, to the broader community, and we want to present that kind of good effect that also will add to the esprit and morale of our business community. I know we're very concerned about new business, as we should be in the commercial district, but I think it's very important that we not lose track of the needs of our current businesses and the potential growth in tax revenue from that. And that is our charge, of course, is Downtown Improvement Committee. We like to imagine that we endeavor to be the glue and grease that holds the very busy people in downtown together with the equally busy people working at their businesses who don't have as much time as those of us on committee to try to move back and forth between the downtown community and town hall. So that's a brief introduction.
Great, we'd love to see your presentation.
And Chuck, have you got PHP there?
Yeah, the second one down.
Yeah, okay.
Yep,
So
this is Chuck and
yeah, Chuck, can't say enough for the support we've had from DPW and PHP, so I'll turn it over.
yeah, I'll turn it right over to Elsa and Michael. They've been the consultants that we've had with VHB for the duration of the project. So I think they just need to be able to share screen.
Yeah,
and
they
they'll
should.
talk us through.
Yeah, both of them should have capability.
I suggest that if we have questions on the presentation, we interrupt and ask them rather than trying to hold everything to the end. That's acceptable, okay?
Mhm.
Works for me.
So who's up, Elsa or Michael, or who's taking the lead?
That would be me. Hang on 1 second, just. Okay. Oops, sorry. Actually, sorry, 1 second. Just. Can everyone see the screen?
Yep, that's good.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Steve, for the introduction. So we have been working with the DIPS committee and also Chuck and Nate on the downtown improvement phase two of the downtown improvements. Okay, sorry. So just kind of want to go over the project limits for phase two. Phase two includes Central Street from Pine Street to Town Hall, School Street. On Union Street, it goes from Town Hall to School Street, Town Hall, School Street to Beach Street from MBTA track to Tappan Street, and then Summer Street is from the end of phase one, whereas it's around 23 Summer Street to C Street at Washington Street intersection. So for the downtown improvement project, we looked at three main things. We solicited, initial feedback of the phase one improvements. Second task that we did was to identify the existing conditions of our project limits. And then based on the feedback from the DIPS committee, we had kind of developed the concept plan for the phase two portion of the project. So based on initial feedback, we wanted to extend what the phase one improvements had done, and also to retain existing parking count, to improve safety and connectivity, to improve aesthetics, and also use durable materials for our phase two of the project. To identify existing conditions, we had conducted a site visit with the DIPS committee and also a DPW to understand, existing sidewalk conditions, any gaps in pedestrian connectivity, where the desire lines are for peds and bikes, the existing street lighting that's out there, and also, what was used under phase one, some of the streetscape amenities that's out there currently, and also looking at the on-street parking and also the current restrictions within the area. And then after that, understanding the existing conditions and incorporating feedback from DIPS committee, we developed the concept plan for the phase two, which included roadway, streetscape, and mobility improvements. So this is kind of just to go over some of the existing issues that we found based on our site walk. This is the portion of Central Street, right to left, 1, 2, and 3. Elm Street. At Elm Street, there was, based on our site visit, there were some pedestrian safety here that were concerns for pedestrian safety. Mainly is the parking that are too close to the crosswalk right here. So that was a safety concern here. And then where 2 and 3 are, there's accessibility and pedestrian safety issues. There's also a lack of pedestrian connectivity. So between Elm Street and Pine Street, there are no crossings in between these two roads. So it's kind of a long stretch of roadway where people can't cross from one side of the street to the other side safely. And lastly, and then you can also see in the picture in the middle there's also a pinch point within the sidewalk. So accessibility is an issue along this the stretch of the road. And then lastly, for utility, as you can see on the bottom right-hand corner there's a picture of the utility pole with the cable wires as well. So undergrounding the utilities for aesthetics, that will be for this section of the roadway. And then moving down to Union Street, once again from right to left, the first issue that you see, if you can look at the picture on the right side, you can see the bus kind of hovering over the center line due to the parking that's allowed in that section of Union Street. So this is a safety concern, for potential crashes, head-on crashes here. And then second is the bump out that's in front of the library. It kind of creates an awkward curb line here. Based on our understanding, there used to be a tree here and then it since has been removed. So we can definitely improve this to make it a more, straight line curb over here, curb line here. And then third is the crosswalk that's, right in front of the library as well. As you can see here, there are no curb ramps here, so accessibility is an issue as far as at this crossing. Moving along to Beach Street, during our site walk, it was identified that there was some wayfinding and pedestrian connectivity issue from the MBTA parking over there on the north side where it's labeled number 1. Number 2 is the fencing. As you can see from the picture on the left, the fence is pretty antiquated, pretty old there. And then the third is right in front of Captain Dusty's ice cream and also the baseball park. There was during the summertime, especially, it's our understanding that there are long lines for the ice cream, and also, the baseball park is also heavily used as well. So improving safety at this location would be ideal. And then lastly here, right at Tappan Street, once again, the crosswalk showing on the picture on the right is not accessible. It kind of runs into the curb, and there was no ramps for accessibility. And then along Summer Street, the intersection at Washington at C Street, there's safety concerns here. There's some sightline issues, crossing maneuver from C Street to Washington Street as well. And then there are no formalized parking here, even though there are two-hour parking along this stretch of the road. Is not very welcoming. There's no formalized parking, and there's probably also lack of wayfinding. So while this is kind of close to downtown area, it's not fully utilized in this location. And lastly is the guardrail that's along where 2 is. It's also not up to current standards as well. So the extent of improvements under phase 2, based on our feedback and discussion with the DIPS committee, mainly we want to improve pedestrian and striping along the project limits, to upgrade sidewalks to cement concrete, upgrade all pedestrian curb ramps so that they're ADA compliant. However, we want to keep curb line as is. So, unless really needed, there's no significant roadway reconstruction here. And also striping and signage for crosswalks and to better define parking as well. Once again, for curb and parking modifications, we want to reconstruct curb lines to improve pedestrian safety and limit it to, sidewalk, wheelchair, and striping and signage mentioned above. So for improvements, as Steve had kind of mentioned earlier already, study area-wide, we are looking at doing new sidewalks, curbing reset. We're upgrading all the pedestrian and street lights along the project limits. We're upgrading accessibility at sidewalks and crosswalk as well. We are maintaining existing pavement width and parking. And then also landscape improvements at sidewalk and park edge along Beach Street, down on the right-hand corner there. So for improvements along Central Street between Pine Street and Town Hall. As you can see here, some of the design elements that were included here based on the issues that we had identified in the site visit. We had added the crossing, which used to be there. We have kind of put it back in the crossing just west of Morse Court here. Just to give an additional crossing opportunity for anyone who wants to cross between, this section of the roadway. All the sidewalks here, as you can see from kind of a yellow color, those will all be upgraded to concrete sidewalks. And the curb ramps at all the crosswalks here, you can see, are provided with curb ramps and to meet current ADA standards. The roadway also, I don't know if you can actually see very easily here, but the roadway shifts slightly to the north a little bit to alleviate the pinch point, so that we can kind of provide a minimum width of for the sidewalk needed where I had shown earlier where the pinch point issue was. And then also, yep.
Hi, sorry. This is Kathy Bellata. I have a question on where exactly did you see the pinch point? Because I was looking at both sides and trying to see the difference. And I walk this all the time, so I
Yeah, the
Where-
pinch point is where, I think just west of the parking lot where it says private, just west of there. That's kind of where the pinch point is. So just to the left of that ornamental light pole, that's on
Okay.
there. That's
Yep,
where the pinch
okay.
point is.
All right, and
So-
then thank you. And then
Mhm.
my other question is, so the crosswalk that is down by Elm,
Yes.
and, you know, you mentioned the one that goes across Central, right at Elm, in front of Town Hall. That's a really dangerous crosswalk. When you're standing on the side where the Realtor is, and you're looking to cross Central to get to Town Hall, because of the parking, it's a horrible blind spot. And I saw that you mentioned that on a prior slide, and I didn't know if the team had come up with any options.
Yeah, so initially we had kind of looked at putting curb extensions at this location, but this also is a location where it's part of the culvert project. So this actually is included as part of the improvements that's at this location as part of that.
But I'm trying to understand what the improvement actually is, because based on what I'm seeing, the crosswalk is in the same bad place. So I'm trying to understand what is improved. It's really dangerous, and I cross it multiple times a day.
So this is Chuck. DPW is coordinating the culvert project, which we are right now anticipating will go in front of this improvements project. So the traffic engineer for that consultant is looking at this and has proposed a different layout. It'll be slightly askew, but it'll connect the corner of Elm Street more than kind of the mid block. So we kind of pulled it in that direction a little bit. So it is different, and it's about as, you know, there's not much space to work with there. And also, as Elsa mentioned, we do need to pull the parking away from the crossing to give more sight. So that will be part of the culvert project.
Right, I guess I didn't know if an option had been looked at to move the crosswalk to the other side, so it's not so close to the Realtor. But it sounds like
When you
it's,
say other side, what do you mean?
on this drawing, move it to the other side of Elm Street.
Okay, so unfortunately, that would remove the parking on the in front of.
Right,
at
unless
the
you
other
move the
corner.
parking. So I guess what I'm just saying, I think the real issue on that space, and it is really dangerous, it's the curve in the road. You can't see, if somebody is parked in front of the Realtor, and you're standing on that crosswalk, you cannot see oncoming traffic. And so I just, as part of the project that is, whether it's the culvert project or this project, personally, I'd like us to pay some attention to that. It's right in down, it's right in front of Town Hall. It's a frequent area of pedestrians. And it's very, very dangerous when there's even one car parked in front of the Realtor. You can't see.
Yeah, no, it will be changed to the best of our
I
ability.
wholeheartedly agree with your comment. I think part of the problem today is the cars park right up to the edge of the crosswalk.
Right.
So there's no way even to stick your nose.
But,
out there.
and the road curves, so the cars are coming at a curve. So even if they're not parked right up in the edge, you still can't see the oncoming cars. So it's just, I think it's a bad spot.
The question, exactly, and the question begs then, should there even be a crosswalk there? Should it be located closer to Town Hall?
Yeah, and I don't know that, we're not gonna solve it here,
But I'm just saying
it's
this.
bad.
But I don't think the crosswalk where it is right now, you cannot park on the other side of that crosswalk to Elm Street. You can only park as far as the crosswalk. So if
Right.
they move that crosswalk right to the edge of Elm Street, in other words, move it another 10 feet, they can build a bump out there because there isn't any parking there anyway. So anyway, this is all gonna have to be examined, and this is an area that's all gonna be
Highlight that
reconstructed.
I just feel we should,
Gonna be reconstructed, so we'll worry about it then.
thank you.
Okay, I think
Okay,
the next.
we good? Everybody? All right, let's continue. Okay, so then moving down to Union Street. So along Union Street here, this is where in front of the library, there was an awkward bump out that's currently right there right now. So as you can see on this concept plan, this pull the curb line further back to eliminate that bump out area. As part of that, we were able to make around four parking spaces here. Also, just to the right of these parking spaces, you can see that the curb extension is provided there to shorten the crossing right outside of the library here. Same thing, all the sidewalks will be upgraded to concrete sidewalks. And then on the right side, closer to the Beach Street there, we're going to formalize the parking to make sure that it's, you know, it's a good distance from the crosswalks there for visibility as well. So this is kind of a street view of what it would look like. On the left of the existing addition, you can see the bump out over there. At the crossing where is not ADA compliant. What it would look like in the future would be concrete sidewalks with accessible ramps and as well as a crossing here as well. And the spaces that I had mentioned earlier on the left side of the road.
Can I ask a question on this slide? Just the crosswalk here looks different than in some of the prior, what's the, these aren't pavers, right? This is just painting.
So these are, you know, these are just pavers right now. It depends on what, you know, you ended up choosing as part of the design for your crossing. So there have been talks, you know, different types of crossings, you know, in the downtown area, maybe. So that would be, you know, during the design phase, you can.
We could do just like
refine.
painting rather than pavers though.
Right.
Because pavers have their own issues with
Right.
safety.
Correct.
Thank you.
Moving along down to Beach Street. So along Beach Street here, the fencing along the south side there, that would be upgraded. All the sidewalk will be concrete, new concrete sidewalks, also with a grass or paver buffer, which right now there is a grass strip between the sidewalk and the parking right now. So either maintaining that or making that as a paver buffer there. Also included curb extensions to increase visibility of pedestrians at the crossing just across from at the Captain Dusty. So that here would be a raced intersection to kind of, you know, do some traffic calming here to slow down some of the speeds at this location. And then at Tappan Street, it'll be a crosswalk with ADA accessible ramps provided as well. So this is kind of view of what it would look like. On the left is the existing additions outside Captain Dusty. On the right, you can see the transition up and then the race intersection there where the red and the ladder crossings are. And then it transitions back down to the other side of the road. This, as part of Beach Street as well, there was an issue brought up just outside the post office. So the radius here on the left side under existing condition, it seems like it was too much here where people were having trouble backing into the spot. So as part of this project added in later that to reduce some of that radius, I don't know if you can see the big difference here, but the proposed condition on the right, you can kind of see it kind of cut kind of where the middle of the car is versus on the left, it's like kind of wrapping around to the outside of the car. So that would be also part of the improvements here. And then moving on to Summer Street. So Summer Street here, as you can see earlier, the guardrail here is very old and antiquated and also not up to current standards as well. So this guardrail here will be upgraded, crash rail for safety. We're also going to formalize the parking areas along this section of Summer Street so that, you know, it's more inviting and also with improved wayfinding, additional parking spaces, here can be used as part of the downtown parking as well. Also along this portion, we'll also put utilities underground as well. So this is the street view of what it would look like on the left side, existing condition. On the right side, it would be proposed. As you can see, the sidewalks will be concrete, formalized parking with the parking spaces along here. Probably some more wayfinding signs that will point people to this area for additional parking. Ornamental street light as well will be included as part of the project, and also the fence that will be upgraded along this section of the roadway. One thing to note is the intersection of Summer and C Street. That intersection, we had a previous design, so based on our discussion, we'll probably revisit the previous design for the improvements for that intersection. And that is the end of the presentation.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
One of the questions I had was about the yellow ADA pad.
Mhm.
Currently use sidewalk plows. How do those fare with sidewalk plows? Because they've got the raised bumps on them.
So I'll handle that one, Elsa. But so the idea with this project, as they did in phase one, would be to do a cast iron or an improved. So it wouldn't be the yellow, like kind of plastic hard rubber ones. It would be a more durable product. And so that's what we would be doing. That's what we did in the intersection improvements that we did a couple years ago at School and Central, as well as the top of Union and Beach. So those are cast iron material that fares pretty good with the sidewalk tractors.
Thank you.
Just one question to refresh my memory. We did pave Central Street not too long ago. And redo those sidewalks. How old are those sidewalks on Central Street right now?
So we only did the intersections. We didn't do the entire walkway. So as part of the common project, we did in front of the common. And then we did the intersection directly in front at School and Central. So those are 3 or 4 years old now. The rest of them have not been touched. If you go further down, again, the intersection at Central and Union and Beach, that has been done. But that was all of those projects are, I wouldn't say those projects were forward thinking in that we didn't want to overextend them further down, because we were only using asphalt sidewalks and stuff like that. So we didn't want to expand it so far that it wouldn't be able to be undone, because these are the considerations for extending phase one of the downtown improvements and making a much larger phase two has been kind of part of the narrative with the DIPS committee for several years.
I'm sorry, Chuck, I wasn't clear on my question. My question was, we did pave Central Street from like Pine to Town Hall not that long ago.
Mhm.
And did we not do the sidewalks at the same time? Or we
Correct.
just did the street?
No, we didn't do the sidewalks.
We
Okay.
just did the street.
About the sidewalk.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to get a time frame in my head. So the only sidewalks on Central Street that have been done, like say within the past 3 years, are the ones right in front of Town Hall. And the ones that go from Town Hallish or Elm Street up to the gas station, Pine Street, those haven't been done, what, 10 years, 15 years, God knows how long?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's the issue.
got it. Yeah,
Correct.
trust me, I'm just trying, I know they're in really bad shape. I'm just trying to get a time frame on whether or not they had been done recently. Thank you.
If I might make one more
Yes,
comment.
certainly.
I just want to say this from purely aesthetics looks really nice. But also from a safety standpoint, it greatly seems to improve the downtown, the safety downtown, and even in terms of having utilities underground. There's a big safety component to that too. And additionally, I think the fewer trees we have to butcher to allow the power lines to continue. Anyway, I just wanted to say for myself, thank you. Looks really nice. It looks like a town that's cared for.
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to add to, it's not, might not be clearly shown on here, is one thing is having fog lines, not only a center line, but a fog line on the side. To keep like when you drive past town hall and all of a sudden the street's so wide, you feel like you can go 45 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Making lanes defined the whole way, so that if you're riding a bicycle, there's not enough room for a bike lane the whole way, but some places there's enough room that a bike could be on the side and not be in the traffic. So having defined lanes through town, so that it has a big safety factor.
No, I mean, you don't know what this costs at this point, I know that you're gonna look for funds at some point. Is the timeline for all of this certainly driven by the culvert? In other words, this would all be done, if it's done, it's all gonna be done at one time, and certainly in any event.
No, it's not in the sense that, I mean, we're hopeful that the culvert, when it is done, will be done on the sidewalk. The sidewalk will be done in conformance with this plan. But this is modular, that's gonna be done in increments. So, the committee is ready to be proactive in assisting the town to get grants to the extent that that can be done. But I also think it is a municipal responsibility to look after its downtown in a way that is uplifting and appropriate for the center of town. So we've got to work that out yet.
And do we have a priority as far as the modules go?
Not,
We can set that priority.
yeah, I mean.
I'd say the linchpin, if I may, I'd say the linchpin is the culvert itself and how that relates to what we intend to do. We're working
That's
closely.
probably the first thing, but then you've got two other looks like three other modules.
Right, the Beach Street and Summer Street has nothing to do with
Mhm.
the culvert project, right?
Right.
So those could be done if we had available funds, right? Those could be done earlier. So I guess that's what might be interesting to get some feedback from the team is what could be a phased plan look like from a timing.
My two questions are, what are your next steps for? I think you've got some affirmation here, a few suggestions. What are your next steps for introducing this to the town?
Well, with your support, we would intend to put that out to some sort of a downtown meeting, whether it's with the chamber or have some kind of a public meeting around it, combined with the wayfinding and placemaking work that has been done in the auspices of the planning board, which does things like public restrooms, benches, street art. It's kind of the aesthetic side of that. So, subject.
Restrooms, is that aesthetic? Well.
Well, you know, I mean, it's part of downtown. I mean, they use essentially the same geographic area to work on the amenities. So it would seem to me that the logical thing would be to have a downtown renewal kind of presentation to the community at the time that seems appropriate, like maybe fall when everyone's back, for instance. But, you know, we would be guided by the board's sense of, you know, we were a creature of the board, so we defer to your guidance of what is appropriate for the broader community, assuming people feel comfortable with this as the roadmap on the hard infrastructure that we're suggesting.
Madam Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
So last spring during Skate by the Sea, there was a table set up, and I think there was some kind of survey going on. Or maybe it wasn't a survey, it was different options of what you'd like to see for restrooms, what you'd like to see for
Yes,
artwork.
it's the planning.
Have we got any Any feedback
It's a
on that?
separate project.
It's a
That's what they-
But you're not involved with that project at all.
Well, we have a very good working relationship with the planning board and Betsy, where it comes to all our meetings, we talk all the time. I talk to Ron all the time. So as these projects develop, we're sort of independently, but we're back and forth with each other at the staff level all the time, and they seem to be very complementary.
And with that, the parking study we did last summer.
Yes, we were involved in that also.
We haven't got any.
Can I say something? Is that okay?
Sure.
So I'm going to say that design matters, and having spent my whole career as a project manager in a architectural design firm, design matters. And so what Steve just mentioned is very important here, that we are coordinating, whatever we do will be done in coordination with what other efforts, be it signage, be it wayfinding, be it whatever it is in the town here. So it's important that when we do go to the public here, that we have a good, solid plan which addresses all the components. Won't be finalized. We're certainly engaging the public to see if we can get opinions and constructive opinions and criticism of where we're going before we finalize the plan. But design, overall design, inclusive of all the components, is vitally important to us.
So I have a suggestion as to how this, the next steps. So there's a meeting of the chairs of all of these boards and committees. Debbie, what's the currently scheduled date?
27.
27th, okay, so that is where we were gonna have like a workshop type discussion on when something has to be worked jointly across multiple boards, how do we want to handle that? And DPW was going to be, certainly a centerpiece of the conversation. I would suggest that this be one of the topics for that meeting, right? What are the next steps so that we can take a comprehensive set of, discussion points to the public in a, comprehensive way, rather than trying to each project have their own meeting.
Yeah, I will be there, and I'm sure that our colleagues at the planning board will be there. We're not quite looking, at this point, where we are right now is we are reporting to you on our work under your guidance. And we're not going to do anything until, let's say, the report is accepted, let's say, or the recommendation is accepted, and then we will go from there. So our focus has been to get to this point with this body.
I just had one question regarding input from Chief Fitzgerald and DPW. Have they both been involved with this? I mean, I know DPW has, and I know Betsy Ware, but Todd, have you seen this, and are you familiar with?
Not to the extent I was, here tonight, but, most of my concerns, especially with the crosswalk in front of Seaside One and Town Hall, were pretty much addressed, but, I haven't been involved with it. I'm following Chuck.
Just because I think that in addition to DPW, I think that having the police department, they really know where we have serious problems, so, and less serious.
So Betsy Ware has her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Betsy?
Hi, I just wanted to add a couple of comments. I have been working with the Downtown Improvement Group and various department heads on a grant that was secured before I came on board that was a placemaking grant. And Civic Space Collaborative is the consultant. They have kind of followed in VHB's footsteps on looking at toilets in the downtown, street furniture, public art, and wayfinding. And their report will be coming out the end of this month. Additionally, even though we were given the wrong information, we applied for 3 one-stop grants by the end of last week, and Sue Croft is to be applauded for her efforts in applying for these grants. We were given wrong information regarding the number of grants we could apply for. So at the last minute, we actually applied for a wayfinding grant with Greg's help as well. And I think we have a pretty good chance of getting that as well. And that would start in the fall. So it seems like there's a couple of things in place to kind of follow all the activity of the VHB study.
Thank you. So. You heard our comments. I think if there were serious concerns about anything, you would have heard them. We're not shy. The question that everybody's going to ask when they ask about this is how many parking spaces do we gain or lose?
I would say, Elsa, I would say we gained 3 or 4. That's my guess.
That's what it looked like.
Yep.
There are people on the downtown improvement committee that are keeping a very, very watchful.
But I'd like them to share with us.
I should say, yeah, by doing what Kurt talked about, by identifying the drive lanes down through the center of town, we'll better define the parking too. Whereas now it's a little bit willy-nilly, as we all know, in front of the library before you make that curve, we'll define it better too. So I think that would be very helpful.
I guess we have nothing to do, but thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome. Our pleasure. And we will plan to discuss on the 27th, the follow-up in conjunction with the work of the planning board.
Mhm.
I think that's good. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you, thanks.
Great job.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all our friends.
Thank you, Todd.
VHB.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you. Our next is land management staffing. I think. Go ahead.
Sure, I can tee this up for you. We've had a few discussions over the months. A desire to do some reorganizing of the staffing. And there's an opportunity for a couple of different models, so I repeated for you in the packet the current staffing, what we have, at least what we have funding for. A couple of different alternatives. One being going to a full-time building inspector slash the land management director position. With an emphasis on building inspector work. Could probably help with application reviews to make sure that they are ready for the different review boards, ZBA and planning in particular. So option A, as I say, would have a full-time building inspector with a half-time planner and a half-time conservation agent and a full-time land use clerk to provide services, again, primarily to ZBA, Concom and the planning board. Option B sticks with the half-time building inspector and relying on more third-party inspectors for the larger projects that would be paid for by the applicant, and would stick with a full-time or boost the planner position to full-time as a town planner, but also land management director overseeing the various aspects. Again, sticking with basically a half-time conservation agent and going with a full-time land use land management clerk. So there's some similarities in terms of both options are envisioning a full-time clerk, so that's someone who is here and someone can always find someone to talk to if they have some land management issues or concerns or need information, so that rather than the very part-time positions that we currently have. I favor option B. I think that relying on third-party inspections when needed for the larger projects is a cost-effective way to go. And putting that burden on the applicant in terms of the cost, which is something that we can do. And for commercial project, any commercial project over, I think it was 30, there's 3,200 square feet or 3,500 square feet.
35.
Can require that. So I think we should take more advantage of that than we have in the past as a way to help supplement our resources in that area. We've been having our interim planner is at 23 hours a week, and that's really been a challenge to keep her at that level. There's a lot that she could put in a lot more hours and still not get everything done. So I think it's demonstrated the need for that full-time planner position. There's a lot of issues right now in terms of the planning realm. Obviously, the MBTA, that won't be with us forever, but it's certainly front and center for the next 18 months or so. But I don't see things calming down, if you will. I think that they were looking forward. I think that the town will have significant issues with housing and development and open space management and expanding some of our conservation areas. In addition to focusing on housing and some commercial development as well. I mean, we won't see a lot of commercial development in this town long term, but I think projects like CST, when they come along, we should be ready for them and be able to accommodate them if we can. I think that'll be a significant project for the town and a real benefit for the town from a fiscal point of view. So that's.
John, comments?
Yeah, no, and I saw your suggestion that you like option B. In that regard, is the current planner, is it in your mind that the current planner would move if option B occurs, that person would become a full-time person?
Yes.
Okay, not only the position, but the person.
So our interim person could not be full-time.
That's my question.
So she's limited because of
Yes,
retirement
state deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as great as it's been to have Betsy, we won't have her forever.
No, okay. So going to that route, then we have to find a planner.
So that's going to take a few months for sure.
Sure. Oh, I understand. But I feel that's probably makes that particular arrangement makes more sense. I think the skill set that a planner has is probably better suited for that position.
Right, I agree. Our skill sets with a building inspector or.
Yeah, they're more
They're narrow.
outside. They're more outside and
Yeah, it's a narrower focus.
construction oriented. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a complex area. There's a lot to building codes and enforcement, but it is a narrower focus.
Mhm.
I have too.
What I've discovered with you is if you take that deep breath, you have to think of what you're about to say as opposed to just blurting things out. I have heard, sitting on the ZBA for going on 4 years now, I've heard time and time again, the building inspector or lack of a building inspector. All right. And I think some of the problems that we've had in the past have been due to the part-time nature of a building inspector. So having said that, if I had my druthers, it would be a full-time building inspector. However, if we do have that clerk, that full-time clerk, that takes a lot of the pressure. And we can, because I do agree that right now we're at a critical stage requiring a planner. There's a lot of things going on. And I think we have to address those, and we need someone full-time who could just continually monitor what's going on in that respect. So that's the challenge, is trying to figure out if you can present me with a clerk that can spend a lot of time with the building inspector and make sure that the inspection is done properly, then I would go with option B. But if not, I'm gonna try to go with a full-time building inspector.
Yes, I don't know. Is the intention that the clerk would be somebody who would be able to answer questions as people were putting together projects? Or
Yes, so they would be the day-to-day face of our land management efforts. But detailed conversations about compliance with zoning regulations, I mean, that's still the building inspector's role. But the clerk could, as Brian suggests, that the clerk could be providing, could be a facilitator of information getting to the inspector, making sure that when the inspector is here, that he or she is focused on specific concerns or issues that have come up or follow-up that's needed, and help track that follow-up.
Yes.
And so is tracking, okay, this project X is 3/4 of the way done, and here, let's review what the ZBA approved, and are we in compliance with that?
Yeah, and I think also with a full-time, if there are calls into inspection service, into the building inspector's office, they can return in a timely manner. And that might placate me.
Few things. So number one, I really like the idea of having applicants pay for the hiring of independent inspectors for the larger projects. I think, to me, that's just a no-brainer, and we should already be doing it. For that reason, I can support option B with a couple of caveats. It's my understanding we don't really have a current town employee, Greg, other than yourself, who's responsible for land management. Would that be fair to say? Or do you have someone, one of your direct reports, responsible for land management today?
Well, so that would be the town planner, though.
But that's not how it's working today.
Well, because we don't have a full-time planner.
So it's just a full-time nature? Okay. So I guess as part of my support for option B, I'd like to see two things. Number
That's
one.
I'm
Sorry, go ahead. Number one, I'd like to see us evaluate all of the committees, okay, that are engaged in land management. We have more than a few.
Yes.
Okay, so in order to support additional administrative positions, my expectation would be either some of those committees get combined, retired, or reshaped to report to the land manager and not the select board, so that we can get rid of some of the bureaucracy that comes along with some of those advisory committees. Okay, so that would be one caveat, is reshaping, taking a look at holistically how those committees engage and reshaping them as necessary, because otherwise we're just adding more people to the conversation and not streamlining and making it more efficient. The second thing is, whenever I hear someone wanting to add an administrative position for tracking, that's a huge red flag for me. It says we also need to look at automation. There is really no reason why there has to be a human solely responsible for, you know, picking up the phone and tracking. There should be some automation in place that does this to make it easy for people to not have to call town hall, or if they do have to call town hall, make it very quick to get them an answer. So, so my two caveats to supporting option B is taking a holistic look at the processes, including the committees, and reshaping them to the advisories to, you know, the land manager, and also making sure we take a look at what processes have to be automated.
I just, if I may, just because one of the questions I had was open space and rec under this as well. And I think that in terms of reshaping committees, we're in the process of doing that already. And regarding part-time building inspector, I reading what I've been reading and learning more about the building inspector, what the building inspector does and what's going on. I feel that a lot of the concerns are born out of either misunderstandings or inaccurate expectations of what the building inspector does. So I think that the answer is not a full-time building inspector. I very much am supportive of option B, because moving forward, I agree that it really is about land management that's most critical. And having a full-time clerk for support just makes so much sense. And then, as Kathy said, third-party inspectors, yeah, let's pass that on. And do we have to limit that though to commercial? Can we have most applicants have to foot the bill for more routine inspections? I just think that we don't charge a lot, and to cover the costs of broader land management, let's let the people who are building take a little bit more of the cost on. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the ongoing work of reorganizing committees. And that reorganization could report into a full-time town planner. We have a request for more automation, and I would think that a full-time town planner would be somebody who would be able to recognize how that can be reasonably put together. And we have a request that it not only be large commercial, but as I remember, this was a cubic foot. And we have some houses that have got a lot. So there is a request that we move to require applicants to provide their own inspectors for projects over, all projects over, not just commercial.
And I want to clarify, are we talking, they pay, the town has a clerk of the works, as it were, the town, that the applicant pays. We don't want their particular inspectors inspecting their.
No, the town selects
Right, I
the
just wanna
inspector,
clarify.
but they pay, yeah.
Okay.
And I'd like to make a clarification as well, that it's not strictly a town planner, but also a land management director, which I don't know if that's parsing or,
Right, no, it's fine.
which is
See it as a
what you
land
wrote
management
in,
Director / planner.
right?
Okay.
And I just wanted to reiterate what you had
Yep.
written there.
So a question to that end, Greg. So if you were to look at person who is in this role, how much is planning and how much is land management dealing with all of the machinations here? Is that like 80-20? Because you said right now, Betsy's flat out. And we got her for
23.
75% of a person.
No, not even.
No, less than that, I guess 60%.
23 hours a week.
All right, but she could do 30.
Mm-mm.
No, she can't do 30, but if you were to let her go,
If
she could.
If there was an individual.
If she could. I just want to make sure that when
In
you,
terms of planning work,
yes,
yes.
specific planning work, I just want to make sure that that individual, based upon what the needs are for planning right now versus kind of the other activities that would go into land management, that can all fit into one person.
There'll always be more than one person can really do all at once. You have to prioritize, and that's just,
And the prioritize.
yeah, you have to do that. You always have to do that.
I think we were getting at Greg, is that this is a system that we're trying to
Yes.
implement, a land management system. There is land management, there's planning, there's automation, there's administrative work. Some support from maybe some committees, and it would be helpful to have a holistic view of what that is and therefore what we have right now and what the gaps are that we have to implement.
No, that's,
Does that make
that's a
sense?
good summary. I agree.
Could we hear from Sarah Melish?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I hear you talking about overall land management. What I don't see you addressing is the need for additional enforcement. Where the ZBA is challenged with many things today, and we have an application before us for this month, and the applicant's refusing to apply for ZBA to approve an accessory dwelling of 953 square feet footage on a non-conforming lot. And they say they have the right by right. And that's not being enforced today, and the ZBA should not be the one to have to address that. And I don't see that the land management is going to address the enforcement issues, and I don't see that individually hired inspectors are going to address the overall enforcement issues that we're relying on townspeople to enforce, and we shouldn't be. Thank you.
So Greg, when you say half-time building inspector, we currently have a building inspector who does how many hours a week?
Roughly 20 hours a week.
And how many are in the office and how many are out on inspections?
Right, so he's in the office 4 hours a week.
And so the remaining 16
This is his inspection.
are inspection work. I agree with Sarah. I think that how do we address enforcement, which comes under that?
I'd like to ask Greg how our current system is supposed to address a problem where someone is insisting that they have something by right when it's the opinion of the ZBA that they don't. How should that get addressed?
So that should be addressed by, if the ZBA has made a decision to that degree, and that's enforceable by the building inspector. So if they made that official declaration, and someone is going ahead in contradiction to that, then the building inspector needs to issue a cease and desist.
Can we hear from somebody on the ZBA?
Yeah, having worked closely with Sarah over the last 4 years, enforcement is a major issue. Okay, and I know that at times, when there's an appeal of the administrative decision, the building inspector will then come back to the chair of the zoning board. What do you think? I know that, I mean, when applications come in, he's very helpful. He knows the bylaws. Okay, but I think when there's, I've had personal experience on a couple of different occasions, different locations, where there's been some issues, and the response is, well, I'll look at it with the as-bills. Okay, as opposed to when someone's drawn their attention to a problem while we're still framed. When you can go in there and take a look at things, okay, and make the change before they become expensive, he is held off and said, I will look at them with the as-built. By that point, it's too late. I mean, it's very expensive.
He has had people take walls down. I just want to
Okay,
jump in.
but I'm just saying this, my experience.
Right,
Okay.
so let me ask a question. What I hear Greg proposing is a different system and structure to take the load off of the building inspector, some of this administrative stuff or whatever, so that perhaps he can spend more time on enforcement. That's kind of why I thought you were proposing option
And
B.
to that point, that's why if I would support Plan B as long as we can revisit this in a year.
Yeah. So the other part of my argument, though, was I do think we need to understand if there is just a workload issue or a performance expectation issue. You don't go hire a full-time person until we make clear what the expectations are of the half-time person, and are they clear, and are they, being addressed as expected? I'm assuming it's just a workload issue, and option B will help with that.
Well, and expectations from both
Both
of
sides,
those.
right.
But there is a bit of an expectation mismatch.
Right.
So I would venture to say that the vast majority of building inspectors believe that their job is not to be cruising around town looking for violations. I think most any building inspector you speak to say, no, that's not my job description. I respond to complaints. Or if I'm involved with issuing a building permit, then that building inspector is definitely following up on that issued permit. But if something isn't permitted or applied for, they are not roving the streets,
Right.
keeping their eyes.
I agree, I wasn't saying that at all. I would say,
I wouldn't say you were, but I think some people would like to have that perspective that someone is out there roving and looking.
but again, my experience has been on permits that we as a zoning board have granted.
But now those should be monitored and on top of.
And so I think that's where the disconnect is. There's a perception that is not happening. Okay, so I would suggest as part of fleshing out the system that is option B, that there's a real,
How does that help in that situation?
how does that help that building inspection enforcement issue? Because it's not going away. Does that,
Yeah, Sarah, how she goes along that. Being the chair of the zoning board.
Yes, you should ask Sarah.
Ms. Mellors, can you speak to that?
I'm sorry, what are you asking me to speak to?
The question is whether having a full-time clerk who can take on some of the responsibilities that are currently falling on the building inspector and freeing some of his time to follow up on the issues that come up in front of the ZBA, whether that is an experiment worth trying.
I think the challenge with the building department is they're reactive and not proactive. I think that there's a heck of a lot of things going on in town that nobody's paying attention to. And I don't think it should be up to the residents to have to bring things up to the building department in order to have them take action. And that's what's occurring today. And I don't think it's, I think that we have architects, we have builders who are taking advantage of our system. And because we're not doing anything to rein them in. And, I don't have the answers, but a part-time building inspector does not do it. And we have the applications reviewed in the building department today. But, there's never, we have a situation coming up where they're putting in this huge barn, and guess what? It exceeds the coverage, and they think they can get away with it. And so people do things in piecemeal, and if we want to put up with that, that's fine.
Yes,
But,
not be
I
making
just think it's an issue. We've got a big problem in town. That's my opinion.
I think this falls within the four corners of the agenda on the land use. But I think that Greg has already explained quite clearly that it is typical for building inspectors not to be proactively looking for violations.
I agree with that.
And I think that's.
Is this a question of the building inspector perhaps not being out there checking projects frequently enough? And people, it's not that people are building things for which they don't have permits necessarily, but they say, I'm gonna build this, and then they build something that's something else. I'm not saying entirely different, but they cut corners and they do something that wasn't in the specs. And if you were out there to check on a regular basis, you'd be able to see that.
I think there are regular points during construction.
There are, but there's a lot of stuff that can happen in between those points.
But the question is
Yeah.
whether it is up to the building inspector to monitor
Right.
between inspection points.
Or
And
define monitor, right? What does that do?
Yeah, it seems that this is what's going on. All of a sudden, something is not.
Or it is, again, perception and expectations. And I do we want to be a town that is policing everything all the time? I think that, no, people should not have to be tattling on neighbors. But the way the system is set up, the building inspector does inspect periodically. If there's something outwardly egregious, typically it's caught. But yes, there is the perception that things are being gotten away with.
okay, we've been around this one twice.
Mhm.
I think we have a plan. We will go with B with the caveats that we listed. And see if that does improve the performance, the perceived performance of the building inspector.
Would you like a motion,
I would like a motion.
John?
I think I'm up for the motion. Move that the select board move forward with option B, which includes full-time land management director planner and a half-time building inspector, half-time conservation person and a full-time clerk with a third-party inspector to provide support as a condition of certain permits that meet requirements.
Second,
Friendly amendment,
Yes, ma'am.
which includes the caveats that we previously listed around the system approach, et cetera.
Okay, with
That makes
automation
Yeah.
and automation and
The committees, understanding the
Committees,
roles of the
committees.
committees.
which is ongoing.
okay. I accept that.
There's a second. Becky, John. And John moved, Becky seconds. Is there further discussion? John,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes,
Becky,
Yes.
Anne says yes. Okay. Now moving on. The next thing on the agenda is the appointments, the appointment policy. And it's interesting that we have an appointment policy that says that people aren't automatically appointed and a list of appointments in the same agenda.
Yes.
One way to handle that might be to put into this policy a line saying, as of June of 2023, everyone counts as a first year. So we can do the appointments, and then in the next year, everybody will be coming into year 3. The people who are already appointed are in year 1, the next year is year 2. So the following year, in 2024, we would be looking at everybody to reapply who has had. Okay.
And for year 2, the chair at year 2, they serve at the pleasure of the chair, unless it's the chair. then
Not
Is it
year two,
year- these
term
are-
two.
No, these are
Yeah.
2-year terms.
Term.
Term.
Second term,
Terms,
second year of their
okay,
term.
Yes. So this year would proceed as it has, and next year we would look to see if people had finished a second term.
yes, yes. So the effective date of the new policy is
Is a year from now.
a year from now. That's how I would
Mhm.
suggest it. Okay.
Yep. There. With that, is there further discussion of this?
I just had a question about the copy in terms of people in, people in that position who finish it. And I guess it's the modification that you have really kind of at the end, where it says, with the agreement of the chairs and the select board, those members may be reappointed without reapplying for their positions, and their positions will not be advertised. Positions held by members in their second and subsequent terms shall be advertised. But those members may still be eligible for reappointment, correct?
Yeah.
And I would use the word for reappointment rather than for reapply.
Mhm.
In other words, the last word for
I
that.
think, okay, I put in reapply because I want to make it clear that it's not an automatic. As,
No,
Agreed.
okay, and I looked at it and I said, those members shall still be eligible for re. In other words, I put the word still in there so that it's understood that it's not.
I think it makes it a little. I think it's clearer leaving it as reapply.
Well, then they have to fill out an application
yeah,
form.
that's the intention. That was what, at least that was my intention when I wrote it.
You're just leveling the option.
I'm literally because the person who's been on that committee for, you know, for 3 years or whatever,
6 years.
well, at that point, it's 6 years.
In other words, do we want Tom Keogh to fill out another application?
Yeah. I'm just,
No, I get
all
what
of
you're
those
saying.
people, anybody in that position.
So honestly, I don't know, let's take
Yeah.
that as a good scenario to follow through, right? There may be a different board in 6 years and they may be unfamiliar with Mr. Keogh and his accomplishments. And yes, I think you should fill out an
And new people in town.
And it would be quite long and quite illustrious. And I don't think there's a problem with that.
I agree.
I think it's a cultural change here that, certainly I've been pretty vocal about, but I'll just tell you how it works in my homeowners association, right? I was on the trustee board for 3 years. I served a term. I said, you know what? Need a break. Someone else want to step up. Took a break. When that same position opened up again, I said, I'm ready to go again. It's a cultural thing about just
Right.
letting people take a break and letting new people come in. That's really all this is.
Well, a break doesn't apply here. I'm talking about somebody that's contiguous.
No, but I'm just
Reapply.
saying the genesis of trying to post
Mhm.
openings is about giving longstanding residents a break and having them feel good about that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also allowing
not-
new people to contribute.
That's not changing that, but the person who would be reappointed would have continuously been there for 6 years.
Absolutely.
Anybody sitting here already knows that person
Well,
because
but
they've been there for the past 6 years.
maybe not. Maybe
Maybe
you have
not.
a new select board. Maybe you have new other, or new people. And I just,
Well, it's true. There could be new people.
I
on the
have
board, but-
only been on the select board for 1 year. I've been in town 10 years, but I don't know every member of every committee. I don't yet.
Oh, well.
Um,
neither do we.
I confess.
Neither do we.
So you're not looking for the Keogh clause?
No, but I don't think that's, well, right now, he's not on any specific committee, but fair enough.
I guess. What I might have, so that we agree with it, that is a motion to approve this policy with the condition that it take effect in 2020.
I move that the select board adopt the appointment policy as presented here on June 5th. And to have it take effect in June of 2024. When is the next cycle?
No, should be June.
June of
Yeah.
2024.
second,
Further discussion? No.
Yes,
Yes.
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 You have a name, I'll remember it. Anne says yes. Okay.
I don't know if you would be agreeable to taking out of order
Can
slightly.
we do
Yes.
this on
Uh,
that?
We're behind schedule,
Yes,
but you could jump to the fire department, which I don't think will take terribly long.
and we have our candidate here.
Yes. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, Jake McNeely is my recommendation for you to ratify as our next fire chief. Jake comes highly credentialed. He has a long list of certifications in the fire profession. And I won't list them all, but they're in the resume that you have. That he's a credentialed Massachusetts fire chief. Has the fire inspection certifications and fire officer certifications. Is a paramedic, et cetera. He is a resident of Essex and is on their call fire department and has worked for the town of Manchester as well, back in the early 2000s. Before he went off to Belmont, where he's currently a lieutenant of their EMS program and coordination of the EMS efforts there. So we had a couple of very strong candidates. Interview committee enjoyed meeting both candidates, and it was a hard choice between the two. But given Jake's credentials that he has, put him on top. And so it's my recommendation to you that you ratify his hiring as our new fire chief, and that he is available to start the 1st of July. And that would provide a fairly seamless transition. He's willing to come in over the next few weeks and get acclimated while we still have Chief Cleary with us. And so I think that can make for a nice transition. So with appreciation to our other strong candidate and appreciation for the skills that he brings to the table. But you have to pick one person. And so that's my recommendation here is Jake for you to ratify.
Does anyone have questions?
After you, John.
Okay, just one. I'm reading it. You've done a lot of stuff. You're still doing a lot of stuff. And you certainly come well qualified. Just one question. So right now you're active in Belmont, Middleton, and Essex.
Yes,
On call in Middleton and Essex, but.
yeah, Middleton's part-time.
Right. Are you, well, I mean, you'd leave Belmont for this particular position.
Yep.
The other two still continue. You're
I
on
probably have to
call.
leave Middleton as well, just
Okay.
because of obligations here. to take
Well,
precedence
that's
and-
kind of where I'm going with it.
Okay.
The Fire chief,
Yeah.
seems to me like there's more stuff to do.
Absolutely.
So, okay, in Essex, hey, you live there, so I assume that that's not a.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I was discussing with the town administrator and you folks,
Mhm.
but if everyone's in agreement, I would like to stay on Essex. Valuable community.
Mhm. Good background, and look forward to it. And the timing is really perfect.
That was one of my questions. And so I'm sorry, would you just, a very poor hearing, as just about everybody knows. So would you be with the Belmont, the Middleton, Essex? You would be giving up both of those and just Essex if that's, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify that. The other was, just this is, so this fire chief position includes being one of the firefighters on duty,
Yep.
right? And
So we call it a working chief.
a working chief. And
It's not just an administrative role.
okay, I just wanted to clarify that and
Which I think he looks forward to actually.
Yes.
To that point, he made it quite clear that he wanted to be a working chief.
Yeah, I think it's very important in a community makeup like this that for multiple reasons that you're a working chief, being out in the public and assisting the being power issues.
I think we'd be fortunate to get you back in town here after a hiatus. Thank you, Chief. Maybe.
I had the opportunity to interview both candidates with Greg, and again, I think we were extremely fortunate to have two finalists with such close ties to the community and such strong backgrounds. So I agree, you can only pick one. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation previously, and I think you're very well qualified.
I have two questions. in Belmont, did you work with Paul, with a, Paul?
So no, Belmont's a fully career fire department. Each shift is made up of 13 working firefighters with a minimum of 11, and then we have a administrative staff. One of the reasons I worked in Middleton was once I got promoted, I didn't have hands-on patient care. So Middleton afforded me the opportunity to still be involved and provide in-person patient care in different capacity than I do currently in Belmont. So I think, you know, in totality of working call, working kind of a part-time call, full-time department in Middleton and working in Belmont, I think will give me the opportunity to think outside the box and try to come up with creative solutions to some staffing problems that might have occurred.
That's
in the
what I was
past.
asking. That you have bet you are a call.
Yep.
And therefore, you're not looking to create another fully professional.
Correct. And I think, you know, I speak honestly, I think looking at the demographics of Manchester, it's going to be very difficult to cultivate a call department. I think we had issues in the past. So I don't want to set unrealistic expectations that we're going to be able to get 20 call firefighters in here. But it's something we should definitely look at, some different options to increase staffing with less of a financial impact to the community.
And my other question, which I think I probably asked 15 years ago, was, have you worked with women firefighters?
I have. So Belmont, I've had the opportunity to work with numerous female firefighters. Currently, there's one on Belmont, a couple have transitioned to other departments or retired, but I would enjoy the opportunity to look that out in the future for here.
Different answer from 15 years ago. Thank you.
Well, there's progress made.
There's like a motion. I would like a motion. Brian, you're on.
I move that the select board ratify the hiring of James McNeely as fire chief for the start date of July 5th, 2023.
Second. Further discussion?
Yes.
John says yes. Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes,
Becky?
absolutely.
And Ed says yes. Thank you very much.
I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Chief.
Very much.
Good to see you.
I think you really saved my life a few years ago, actually. So,
Use the phone.
yeah, I know. Sorry.
When that happens, we have the special town meeting. And
So it's a busy couple of weeks coming up. Couple of three and a half weeks or so. So I'm suggesting we aim for June 28th, which is a Wednesday, for a special town meeting. And to get there, so tomorrow night, we anticipate that the school committee will make a final decision about a new budget proposal. That both towns will need to approve or not. We're not taking any action on it. I strongly recommend that Manchester take definitive action on a new proposed school budget. And so if they finalize it tomorrow night, then we would receive that obviously Wednesday. And you could have a joint meeting with the finance committee and yourselves on Monday, the 12th. And I think we targeted 5 o'clock for that meeting. And you and the finance committee then could review the proposed school budget and determine your position or positions, if they're not the same, on the school budget. And that would allow you then to have a special meeting on Tuesday morning, the 13th, to give final approval to a warrant for the town meeting. And so 2 weeks later gets us to the 28th. So in addition to the school budget question, the planning board is working on some amendments to the zoning regulations. So do this quickly. Back in the fall, there was a long list of proposed changes. The town meeting got through roughly, was it a little over half of them. And one of the articles removed site plan review in anticipation of having a subsequent article be approved that put it in a different section. We stopped right before
That section.
that section being approved. So currently, the zoning bylaw does not have site plan review procedures, and it should. And so the most important article then would be to do what was going to be Article 9 at the fall town meeting, which we did not get to, proposing a new section 12, which is administrator. And there are really aren't substantive matters in that section 12. It is administrative details. It's a cleaning up of what was in the old bylaw. But in terms of, I don't see it being a hugely controversial article.
Just a question on that, though, just for clarifying question. One of the things we did not approve going forward on the last warrant was the appointment of additional planning board
Right,
members,
so-
but I see that covered in here.
4.1.
Yeah,
Yes, I have
yeah.
the same, yeah.
So that's-
12.4.1 still states something we said
Yes.
we didn't want.
That's supposed to be taken out.
Okay, well, it hasn't been yet, so that's why.
Right, it's not out.
So,
I'm saying no unless they take it out.
Same here.
So the discussion has always been, and for the last few weeks, that the proposed section 12 would be minus the
Okay, I have
proposal
heard
for
that
alternates.
at the planning board meetings. I have not seen evidence of it being removed, and until it's removed, I mean, flat no.
Yeah, Betsy has her hand. I don't know if you want
Okay.
to take her now or you want to,
Let's take Betsy now.
yeah.
So just a clarification here. There is one line in the draft that you have that needs to be removed, and it relates to associate members. The
Right.
whole idea of this, of the section 12 is to remove all references to associate members. And for whatever reason, my fault, that didn't get, the final copy didn't get to you. So the planning board is having a public hearing tomorrow night on that issue. They've already voted to remove any reference to associate members in theory, in the language.
Yes, I heard that at the last planning
Right.
board meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Betsy. I just haven't seen the next iteration of the document.
I have one other question, if I may, on 12.2.1, and that was, there were some changes regarding the building inspector. And I just, I think I mentioned, it struck me as more something that would be under your purview. And I didn't know if that,
Actually, I had the same thing noted, exact same section. I interpreted 12.2.1 as though anybody could require a response from the building inspector. And it sounded like anybody driving through town, any Tom, Dick, and Harry who doesn't even live here, could file a complaint. And I thought, that doesn't sound right. Shouldn't it be somebody, I don't know the legal term, with standing or an abutter or a town official who requires, who requests a response from the building inspector? I just don't know that anybody should be able to file a complaint.
right,
That
and
was
my
objection.
concern along those lines was that was kind of having oversight of the building inspector, that I didn't know whether that was really under Greg to determine that was.
Perhaps Betsy might have some insight.
Yeah,
So I believe that section came right out of Mass General Law. I will double check it, but I'm pretty sure that section came out of Mass General Law.
So we'll confirm that.
Okay. So we have the same two.
Yeah. So literally anybody. could-
Wow.
Wow.
And actually, to clarify, people who have construction supervisors licenses are required under their license to report a complaint or an issue to the building inspector if something is not according to code.
Yeah, it was more the requiring of a response from the building inspector to anybody who, it just sounded like
Mhm.
anybody driving through town could say that doesn't look right and file a complaint, and it just sounded.
I will
really
double
wrong.
check the law.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's something in another section that provides some context to narrow that down.
Mhm.
I just kind of zeroed in on that.
Then I had just one question, if I might, one more. It was just on 12.6.7.5 where it says heat island effect. Is that something that would then be? I just was. I understand what it is. I was just not sure how that came into play.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that number?
It's 12.6.7.5.
Okay,
And it was just more of a wanting to understand how that,
this is resiliency and adaptation to and mitigation of the adverse effects of climate change such as flooding, sea level rise, and heat island.
and heat island, I mean, it's just, that's really broad. The whole thing. Anyway, no, I was just more curious, but
But this is in the existing.
yeah, no, I think, anyway, never mind, scratch that. Never mind.
So the main proposal is to adopt a new section 12. In addition, depending on final judgment call from legal counsel, we may seek sort of blanket authority to correct cross-reference errors, Scrivener errors that are found. We've done that in the past, and the submittals to the AGs have included that, but often the response back from the AG's office didn't specifically cite that authority. So council is trying to confer with the AG's office to see if it's in our best interest to just revoke that authority. And again, it's not substantive, it's just making sure that the document is accurate and reading correctly in terms of those cross references. And then a potential third zoning article is if section 12 were not approved, so that site plan review was put back in, there could be a third article that says if the article adopting section 12 fails, will the town approve to reinsert section, I think it's 6.5, which is the site plan review process only, without the rest of section 12.
Isn't the rest of it really just tidying up?
It
I mean,
is,
it's
it is.
just-
Again, I'm not anticipating that
Yeah,
there would be a rejection of amending our section 12, but just as a safeguard, fallback
mhm.
position. At a minimum, we really need to make sure we have site plan review back in the bylaw.
So the three are, first, a new section 12.
New section 12,
If that fails, a new section, or replacing section 6.5.
putting back section 6.5 back into the bylaw,
And that will be passed over if section 12 is accepted.
correct.
And then we have a whole bunch of Scrivener's errors. Are we
Mhm.
Right,
Going to
cross references, Scrivener errors.
going to present them to the voters, or are we asking for general permission?
I think we're asking for general permission. Do I have that right, Betsy?
What was the question?
The question is, article blank to see if we will correct Scrivener's errors. And then there's a whole section of where the Scrivener's errors are and what they are. Is the intention to put the document that has 2 columns showing where there are inappropriate cross-references? Is the intention to show all of the inappropriate cross-references to the voters, or can we just ask for permission from the legislature to fix them?
My understanding from Jonathan Murray is that he felt they needed to go to a town meeting vote. And he was going to check with the AG's office, but I haven't heard anything that says otherwise, that we have to go to town meeting for a vote. Those Scrivener's errors and lack of cross-referencing came as a result of the fall 2021 town meeting, where there were a whole lot of number changes and nobody went back to look at the bylaw to make sure all the references were done.
But it's your expectation that there will be, we will need something on the warrant that lists each of these errors and.
List them or just says,
That's my question is.
Right, so Betsy, do we need to actually list all of the corrections, or can we just have a blanket of authorization to make cross-reference corrections and Scrivener error corrections?
I would advise to do what the article states, because we've gone through it. Basically, Sarah Creighton, Jonathan Murray and I have gone through it. There may be more that we didn't pick up, but those are the ones that we've corrected right now. And hopefully when a new article gets put in, it will be checked for references so we don't end up with this situation again.
But the intention is to correct certain Scrivener's errors as indicated below by deleting the strike through and, okay.
Question, when, for this, if section 12 is not voted in, you said section 6.5, which is just the site review. Is 6.5 the actual number that we want here, or is because of the repagination that 6.5 was a historical number, and now you've got to assign yet another number to that?
No, 6.5 is the accurate number.
That is an accurate number. Okay, good.
Yes, I double checked it this morning.
Wanted to make sure.
So that's sort of the second set of articles. So then a third set of possible articles, twofold. One, do you want to seek voter approval to proceed with the purchase of a new fire apparatus, specifically a ladder truck? So that's question one. And then question two would be the budget always assumed just a 2.5% wage increases for the different unions and staff. So we're not done with contract negotiations for everybody, but the two that are completed, one has a 3 and the other has a 3.5.
I think we should discuss those separately, the fire truck and the wages.
No, there would be two different articles.
Oh, I understand, but even here,
Yes, I agree.
so.
I'm just laying out
So let's-
there's the potential for two money-related articles.
So I'd like to hear people's thoughts on buying a fire truck, replacing the ladder truck.
Well, I was pretty set against it. Just, for a variety of reasons, but the interview process that we had with the two chief candidates, they were both in agreement that we needed, the town should have a ladder truck. We might argue with two fire chiefs, and the third actually, so I would support a new ladder truck. I'd like to see if we could find one a little cheaper than the 1.5, But I've come to that way of thinking at this point.
Myself as well. For two reasons. One, it's about planning for the future, not based on what we have now. But, you know, you add cell signaling, if Shingle Hill got built, I mean, you need a ladder truck. And then how fire chiefs explain that they use it for other rescue opportunities on the Rocky Coast, you know, it's not just for fires.
It's for cats and trees.
It's for people off a
Big
ledge
tree.
or over the bay. That kind of, and Jake actually explained how they used it. Boardman's, was it Boardman Street? Yeah, so yeah, so I agree with Brian, though. I definitely don't think we need a new one. If we could find a demo or something.
And actually, to that point,
Yeah.
even that Jake, that was the first comment, was we don't really need a new one.
Right, we don't need a new one, but I think we need one.
We need one that passes inspection.
Well, there's that too.
That is priority number one.
And everybody does.
Right.
And I've kind of come around. I mean, one thing, you've got to do the math here, and this is not a 1.5 million investment. Because if you don't buy a ladder truck, you got to buy another pumper. And that's $1 million. So really, it's a $500,000 decision or something like that, unless the price, well, as we sit here, the price has just gone up another 50,000 probably. It's probably more than that, at least for a new one, but if we can get one less expensive. It just does not involve as much money as when you look at it on the face value. That's what it is, because we do need another firefighting vehicle of some sort. We can't sit here with just a pumper and that's it. So.
And we have room in the bays to house this. Do we have the people to person it as opposed to man it, I guess, but staff it. Thank you. Do we have the people to staff it? That's another question.
My understanding
Well,
was,
so when you go to 16, you'll have
Okay.
four on a lot of the times, not all the time. but-
And we have a working chief.
Who's gonna get on the truck?
someone's gonna try to- and my understanding is that with a ladder, it almost replaces some personnel. Because of the flexibility and versatility of a ladder that, you know, you don't need two people holding a ladder to climb or however it works. So we do have that advantage as well.
All right, how would we figure out what dollar amount we would want to put in for this? I realize we don't have to make that decision with the warrant, but sooner or later,
But I mean, it would be an amount not to exceed,
yes.
with the hopes that you find something
Available
used
sooner.
or demo, et cetera. I guess my feeling is though that you should sort of prepare for the worst and hope for the best in terms
Right.
of the funding authority. So,
Obviously, this is a question that's going to have to come up for finance.
right, so let me try to get some better figures in the next week. Because my understanding was some of the companies would give you a pretty significant discount if you paid cash. And we're in a position to do that.
We also
So,
authorized the sale of other things to offset the cost.
and to put those dollars towards the purchase, yes. Yes,
Sarah Melish?
We had appropriated 400,000 for an ambulance. Do we need to pull that back somehow to pay for the ladder truck? I'm not sure the mechanics of it, but
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Are we supposed to have a vote on this?
We don't need to make a final decision, it says, until the special meeting on the 13th.
Right, but if I'm seeing a nodding of heads, that's helpful, but if you want to take a vote that proceed with an article.
I would look for a motion to proceed with an article to replace the ladder truck.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Becky,
Yes.
Kathy. Yes. Brian,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Lindsay.
Clarifying question on the proposed meeting for the 13th. You need a quorum at the meeting, but we don't have to be here to approve the warrant, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay, because I might not be able to make it. Okay, do we all need to sign the actual warrant? Like, do you need me to come in later in the day? I just can't.
It's not essential. Again, I just need a majority on the
Okay.
warrant.
Okay.
So
I can be here on the 12th. I'm not. 13th, I'm not.
we needed that afternoon.
I'll try to be. Just wanted to bring that up because I know Becky wasn't gonna be here on the 12th and I wasn't sure she's not gonna be here on the 13th either, so I'll make sure.
Okay.
Zoom in, just, I'll try to.
And the second question we had was whether we should put a money article on to support the contracts that have been signed or all or estimated.
It'd be the estimated, all of them, assuming that they're gonna be in similar rate, which is what I would expect. So a couple of options here. Those additional dollars could come out of the reserve monies that the finance committee has. I don't love starting a year off by taking a pretty big hit on the reserve, but it is an option. It wouldn't actually hit the reserves until later in the year. And if we had a particular fund, we could. Well, we'd have to take it out of reserves at the beginning, but you could always replenish the reserves at the annual town meeting if things had gone south on us. If there's some other big surprise during the year in terms of expense. So one option is to just use reserves now and don't have a vote. Alternatively, you could do a supplemental appropriation now. And so what would that be? It would, a minimum be in the $50,000, so $50,000 rounded. If you wanted to pursue some additional adjustments in terms of some positions being an assistant, full assistant rather than an assistant to, we've talked about that a little bit. You would look to 75,000 as a supplement appropriation.
Regarding the technique we use to fund whatever, is that something we really want to get the finance committee?
Yes.
to
Yes.
weigh on? Okay.
Yes, so this is something we would have a
Discuss on
joint
Monday
meeting.
night.
Yes. But I wanted to introduce it and see if you have some initial thoughts and I know Sarah's here, she might have an opinion as well.
An alternative would be to put the whole thing off to the fall town meeting.
You could also
and
do
then-
that.
And then do
Retroactive,
retroactive.
yes, that's a third option.
Sarah does have her hand. up.
Yes, Sarah, please. We're not hearing you.
Yep.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, so the finance committee has a meeting on 6/20 where we can take this up, whatever you want us to take up.
Well, we're gonna need to do it sooner, Sarah, because of the warrant. So we're hoping to do it at the joint meeting on the 12th.
Oh, okay, somebody's gonna need to add that to the agenda. I'm out of pocket for the rest of this week, so I'm counting on Debbie and Gail to set the agenda.
Yes, yeah, we'll coordinate that for sure.
Thank you.
That would apply to the fire engine as well.
Right, right. So these two questions, you would want to follow through with the finance committee for sure.
Content that we don't need to make a decision
Yeah, we
tonight
pull it
about which way we go. So
Except that we have to set the date, is that?
Again, you'll finalize the date, but as long as there's nodding of the heads that makes sense to everybody. Yeah. That's helpful.
Okay, so we don't need to do that.
And I know that Alan has been listening in as well, and I believe that is okay with his schedule.
Yes, it is.
Is there anything else on the special town meeting that we need to consider?
Those are the items I wanted to cover.
Okay, the next item is liaison update, and do we want to consider reshuffling liaisons at this time, or do you think about it? Let's do some updates and see what people are doing. John?
The only update I have, I guess, is with respect to the water task force. And the intention is, but we intend to meet, or I certainly, and Steve Gang and I will probably meet with the finance committee on the 20th, just to let them know what our thoughts are with regard to changes in the water rates. Chuck is amenable to the phase one, the small increment, really just the major increment on the on tier 4, but otherwise money goes down in general for most of the users to recommend that particular phase one for effect on July 1st. And I believe, Greg, that we, at our next meeting, will we go over the water rates because they go into
Yes.
effect July 1. When is that?
The 20th. Is your
The
next
finance
regular
committee
meeting.
is the 20th. Is that also us?
Yes.
Yeah, that's-
Ninth as well.
All right.
The 19th is the 19th.
Okay, so it's,
15th, whatever. 15th.
right. Okay, so the finance committee is on that night because that's when we would also chat with them. I don't expect, it's more informative to let them know this is how things are going, and finance, we expect that we're going to wind up with more money. But nevertheless, they need to know what the moving parts are here. So they're meeting the same night. Because we have to shift because of Juneteenth.
Well, I mean, you can go to one meeting and.
Yes, I'll figure this out.
Figure
this out. That's the plan, and we will be sending out notes to the top 50 or 100, the users that are being affected, to let them know this is what's going on. And at the same time, to let them know that we are expecting to start a pilot study with meters, and we'd love to have them participate. So you can use both, each one as an excuse for the other, if you will, to get in touch with those folks.
Parks and Rec, experience, I think May 30th was Sunday. Clinton Cheryl was the busiest day.
Record-breaking day.
Record-breaking day. And it went off pretty well. I mean,
Yeah, no, they did well. They earned their keep that day.
now they're getting like 3 weeks rest after that. The other major issue is still the ongoing pickleball courts. Sound attenuation. I think there were a couple of letters that came, or emails that came in from another neighbor. Now over Memorial Day weekend, I drove past that at least a half a dozen times. Maybe it was too hot for people to be out there, but on the weather, on the cooler weather, it wasn't used. It was not being used to its fullest on that weekend. I'm not here during the day or during the week, but we're still waiting for a proposal from a vendor, come up with some different techniques for sound attenuation, and that's an ongoing process. And then finally, I did talk to Cheryl this afternoon, and as I mentioned today, the shuttle, the shuttle is of concern to her, so I think that, as I said, I think Parks and Rec would like to look at that as a weekday item for right now. That's it.
Regarding liaison updates, really, we've already talked about the planning board at length, so I have nothing there to add. But regarding the liaison assignments, I did want to bring up that given the fact that you are the rep on the MBTA zoning task force, I don't think it makes sense for me to be the rep on the planning board. I think there's so much overlap, there's gonna be so much overlapping discussion. I don't think that makes sense. So I would be willing to relinquish my planning board liaison role, take on something else, but it just doesn't feel like that's right to have two different reps on those meetings.
I was going to suggest, as chair, I don't know that you're going to have, honestly, the time to be attending a lot of, both the MBTA task force and the planning board, I think, are going to be taking up a significant amount of time, and doing the chair is going to be,
And the schools.
and the school.
So that's what I was gonna lead into, is my preference would be to leverage my financial background to benefit the school discussion. So I prefer to be a rep on the school committee. Or, FinCom is another, I'll probably go to the FinCom meetings anyway. But just don't feel like the planning board is the right fit for me.
We don't have a liaison really for the planning board. And to that end,
Would somebody like to take my place on the MBTA zoning? Because I do not want to give up the schools. I have lots of experience with the schools.
Kathy, would you want to take up MBTA as well, or is that not?
I'm trying to, it's not that I wouldn't do it. John was the backup, so
Yeah,
I
well,
thought that John would be, I assumed if I didn't take, John would do it.
Yeah, just,
I'd rather take my financial background and apply it in a way that helps the town the most. So if school's off the table, I'd like to be the liaison to FinCom or something.
I will do the MBTA.
Do you have time to do that? Because if you don't,
Yeah, that just leaves, that leaves, it's the water is going away. Okay, so I've got the DPW, got the Historic Commission. I would be interested in the seniors.
yeah,
But I think you're on who's seniors, you?
yeah,
Okay,
however.
but I can do the MBTA. I can fit that in because the water is fairly, that took time, but that's.
Are you sure? Because I'll be your backup on that, and I can do planning board. I
They have a
can
meeting
take
this
over.
week, don't they?
I'm sorry,
They have a meeting this week.
planning board meets.
No, MBTA.
Oh, MBTA, I don't know.
So I'll take
Yes,
over
the
planning
MBTA
board.
meeting on
Thursday?
Thursday at
Yeah.
6:15.
Yeah. Because it's, what do we have Thursdays? I think there's a couple of things. Yeah, MBTA zoning task force, 6:15. Yeah, that's, yeah. So would you like me to take over planning board?
I just feel it should be
Yep.
connected somehow to the MBTA.
Well, that's. I understand. I think that's an awful lot. John, do you want me to be back up to you to MBTA and planning board?
Yeah, you can be back up starting Thursday. I'm just looking at my schedule.
Starting Thursday, wow.
Thursday's not a good day. I got too many things going on.
Okay, yeah, and I'll do that on Thursday.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so I can do that. And you'll do planning board, and I'll just be back up to planning board and MBTA for you?
Okay,
Or do you want, I know everybody's saying those should be the same, but I
Yeah.
don't think they need to be.
If they don't need to be, then I would still like, I was looking forward to the MBTA. But I agree with you, I can't possibly do.
I'll be your backup. How's that sound?
so what happened?
I'm out of it. You guys figure it out. We're not deciding tonight. I thought
We're passing around that we need somebody to handle the planning board,
Right.
and I don't think I agree with Becky that there isn't necessarily a strong tie between the planning board and there will be later, but
Right.
as the MBTA zoning gets started.
Mhm.
I'm happy to pick up planning board. That's
if
fine.
that's a good fit for you.
And then I can be your backup to the MBTA. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay,
I hope Debbie's keeping good track of this.
yeah.
I don't want us recording
And
after.
then, do you want
John
to,
just lost MBTA.
Yeah.
and
Hey,
John, do you want to pick up, Council on Aging?
I will.
Okay,
I'm also Concom. And
Your Concom too?
I
Yep,
was Concom, I
yep.
have been Concom. Concom seems to be running very nicely. And,
If you want me to pick that up as well.
that would be, that
Okay.
would balance well.
so that gives you DPW, Water Resource, which is
Which is a visual
Historic
page, yeah.
District, Council on Aging, Concom, that's an,
So let me offer a suggestion. I had offered to be the backup for DPW last time. A lot of the work we're doing with the boards and the committees and the streamlining of that, it's directly related to DPW.
mhm.
I could offer to take that to alleviate some of that.
Well,
Want to keep it, want to keep it.
Well, you're doing DPW as backup to his, so.
I'm just, like I said, it's just directly related to a lot of the stuff.
I'm an engineer.
I get
I'm
it.
comfortable
Me
with
too.
Who wants it? I'm making notes also. I'm just curious.
You lost what?
Who's doing Concom?
That's now on my.
Okay,
So right now I'm COA, Concom and DPW.
DPW and Historic,
Historic, that's not a heavy lift.
and I've got Board of Health, Harbor Advisory, Planning Board. I have been doing bike ped because that needs to be. There's a lot going on there. There's a huge amount, and I think we need, that's part of what we need to.
I'll take bike ped if you want. Do you want to keep that or do you want to?
No,
Okay.
I'm happy to give that to you.
I do dial into that sometimes anyway.
Yeah, it's fast. I mean, they do a lot. And there are many, okay, so I can give an update on that tonight. So I've got Planning Board, Board of Health and Harbor Advisory and back up to MBTA. Anybody want an update?
Sure.
Mhm.
Okay, on the Board of Health. Update on that, their new chair, Peter Colarusso. They had 6-month review for the health director, a lot of constructive back and forth. And they need another member on there, so we need to get that in the advertised.
Donna first.
Hmm?
What I said was Donna first.
On the,
Is it new opening on the Board of?
Board of
No.
Health.
Board of Health, yeah.
yeah, Board of Health. So that's Board of Health. Next meeting is Thursday morning.
Yes, yes.
And then for the bike pad, they finished up getting their Safe Routes to School survey ready. It's going out to all the PTO parents for the bike ped to identify and address concerns. They did a new video in collaboration with the police department regarding the vulnerable road user law that is new to Massachusetts. And that's going to be published, links in published newspapers as well as on the town's social media. They did a collaboration with the public library, 4 weeks discussion of a book. There are no accidents, just how what are referred to as accidents are actually quite predictable in terms of bike and pedestrian interactions. And they're drafting an article about the 25th anniversary of Bike Ped, highlighting all the work they've done. They have a speed petition they've submitted to the state. And they received Hooper Grant Fund money for additional bike racks. And that's a brief synopsis.
I think. I've been attending a lot of school meetings. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you attended one today, right?
Yeah, there's another one today.
Yeah.
Workshop today.
Yeah, when we had the other
The other thing.
Zoom meeting, yeah.
And they're making a decision on the sixth, after which. I'll at least 3 proposals. They have received a lot of comment, as you are aware, that from people who want to keep the original budget. They have budget that I put forward, which is severe cuts. And would not use reserves and not require an override in Essex, but probably might not pass in Manchester. They have a compromise which puts in reserves and pretty much keeps the program. There's some question whether that would pass in Manchester, at least it certainly would. There would be a lot of parents who would object to it. But they may consider putting more reserves in so that the program is better protected.
What
And
program?
what program? Oh, well, I'm sorry. When the schools say program, what they mean is the program of education, meaning the services provided to students, teachers, whether they continue to teach French, whether they.
Did they put forth any options around taking a peek at some of the administrative positions, or did that not come up during?
It did come up.
Are there any administrative cuts proposed?
I think that, it's not. And. I would have, I don't have the list in front of me. There was an expert, in terms of the central office, the district has a lower percent central office, administration than, other regional districts in our area. They have higher. They divide administration, their central administration, which is the superintendent's office, the finance director, payroll, all that. Then there are the individual schools, and because we have effectively 4 schools, that puts us in the higher category for school administration. Each school has a principal, and I think there's a dean of students in the middle school and a dean of students in the high school. And having, so that is a heavier than average part of administration.
Did it discuss like revenue, like any of the other? Sarah had communicated a list of things that we had suggested revenue.
Yes, they can raise athletic fees, but they've got a $700,000 hole. And you're not gonna fill that with athletic fees, particularly since the state is going in the direction of reducing fees for extracurriculars because kids whose parents are struggling don't sign up for stuff because they don't want to.
Right, yeah, I wasn't
afford it.
just referring to athletics fees. I'm just saying, in general, did they have a conversation about?
Yes, they had a
options on revenue?
conversation about revenues.
Okay.
And
Well,
Guess we'll hear more tomorrow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, consent agenda. Is there anything you want to take out of the consent agenda?
I cannot vote on May 15th meetings,
Okay,
the minutes.
well, let's. Can we have a vote to approve the minutes of May 1st and May 15th from those who were, May 15th for those who were here? Move to approve,
Motion to approve the 15th,
Second.
May.
discussion. John,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the
Motion
rest of the. consent
motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda, excluding minutes from May 15th.
Second.
Discussion. John,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Okay. Town administration.
School Street, the milling machine came back today. They were very busy out there. Actually, it was nice to have a cool wet day, so it keeps the dust out a little bit. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, that project will be getting close to wrapping up, assuming they can finish milling, and then the new asphalt will go down. So we're getting closer to the end of that project. We will have for you at the 20th meeting, a review of the rotunda options. And also a review of the vulnerability action plan for the village area in terms of flooding, sea level rise strategies. So that'll be coming up on the 20th. Western Woods Cleanup Day is slated for June 10th. This is being organized by METC. It'll include lands that are owned by the town, cleaning up trails, picking up trash along the trails that are out there. People are encouraged to volunteer and to do so signing up through the METC website. So that's this coming Saturday, I think 9 to 12, something like that.
Sorry to say I have to work that day. I'd rather be out.
Yeah, that 9 to noon is the planned schedule. So that's coming up this Saturday. So thanks to METC for coordinating that. And then I list a series of meeting dates. And to add to that, so just to review, so school committee meeting tomorrow night. We have the ceremony for the NOAA grant on Thursday, the 8th, and 11th. And we need a person to sort of welcome everybody. Anne, are you able to do that? Okay, thank you.
What time is school committee?
School committee tomorrow is 6.
Okay.
And then, so the 8th is the ceremony at 11 out on front steps here at Town Hall. And then there'll be a short tour of the site, the culvert, and up to Central Pond. Up Elm Street to look at the Central Pond work. June 12th, then a joint meeting with Finance Committee, 5 o'clock. Tuesday morning, the 13th, will be a special meeting to approve the warrant. And then your regular meeting will be on the 20th, which is a Tuesday because of the holiday on Monday. The governance project meeting with boards and committees and department heads on the 27th. And then the June 28th special town meeting. We talked about some forums, public forums leading up to the town meeting. So the thought is we could hold a special forum on the 15th, Thursday.
Still have in June.
In June, yes, yep. So
be
June
here.
15th, like a 6 to 7 time frame. And do that here probably in this room and on Zoom. combination. And
Would it
then,
be possible to make that forum from 7, start at 6:30?
yes,
I have a conflict at 6.
yeah, we can do it at 6:30 or 7, which,
You're the chair now. You can do anything you want.
Oh, I wish.
6:30 is okay, or you want?
I can make 6:30.
Okay,
So what's the title of this meeting? again? This,
Manchester Club, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's all right. I'm,
I have my application at the.
what's the?
Was that right?
So this meeting?
so this would be a public forum basically on the articles for the town meeting.
Okay.
So explain the school vote. Explain answer any questions on the zoning, and
This is
then
the listening tour.
it's our, yes,
Yeah.
a form of a listening
Trying to
tour.
connect the dots.
Yes,
Okay, got it.
it's the listening tour, but kick off with a focus on the special town meeting. And then the thought was perhaps on the 20th, the meeting of the 20th, start at 6 o'clock and do a repeat of the listening session for the public, for the special town meeting, and then start your regular meeting at 7.
I'm sorry, what date was that?
Yeah,
The
20th.
Okay.
So start at 6 instead of 6:30.
Right, so start at 6, do the first hour devoted basically as a Q&A for the special town meeting, and then move into your regular agenda starting at 7.
Mhm.
So if that all makes sense, that books up your June pretty solid.
Can I just ask a question about July? Is that a
Yes,
problem?
we should talk about July.
Only because July 3rd is. the
July
first-
3rd is a tough,
That's gonna be a tough.
that's gonna be a tough one. So I would suggest we don't meet there. And either skip it, skip the meeting. And then pick it up again on the.
Well, there are 5
It is-
Mondays.
Yeah. you
There are
can
5
do-
Mondays, so you could go 10 and 24.
Or you can do 17th and 31st, just keep on our schedule and not impact the planning board.
Right. If you do that, then you'll be 2 weeks in a row. Because of the August
No.
meeting.
31 and then in
17
August.
Oh, the 31 and then the 1st.
Oh,
Yeah.
Could we do something on the Thursday after 4th of July, which is?
Yes, that's another option.
Which is there somebody else, is there another group that typically meets? Because we do save some Thursdays,
Right,
so.
Thursdays are quieter evening.
Except for John.
Yes, it's only the third Thursday, but it always seems to be that then something comes up on the third Thursday.
But yeah, the first Thursday in
Yeah, that's what I do.
July.
Yes.
But,
That way,
Summer's okay anytime.
That gets us back
That's
until
July
later.
That would
6th.
keep us on our regular schedule. then.
Mhm.
July 6th. right?
So July is July 6th, 6:30.
That was six, I'm sorry.
July 17th.
So July 6th. And then 17th.
Sounds bad.
Becky can stay awake on that. The whole month rest up.
The 17th, which 17th?
July 17th.
Oh, yes. That's a regular. It's a regular.
And we should really schedule something for the 21st or the 20th. Just to screw up John's.
They don't meet in the
20th,
summer,
yeah.
so I'm good.
All right.
Hey, we get July done.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Time to
So
let Debbie go.
that's good for me.
At this point.
Oh, we have a hand up from Sarah. I'm sorry.
Oh, Sarah, sorry. Yes, please.
I just wanted to let you know that the FinCom is meeting on 6/20 with a full agenda. And we are dealing with everything that's coming before us. And that's our last meeting of the month,
Of June.
June 20th. We weren't aware that the select board is meeting on the same night. So our meeting starts at 7 and we're dealing
Are you
with
saying
everything
where
left.
you meet?
We're in room 5. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah,
Is the concern where you meet, Sarah? Is that what you
No, I
mean?
just wanted to let you know that we were meeting on the 20th,
Right.
which is in conflict with your meeting. We're starting at 7.
Sarah, I wanted to, how full is your agenda? Because the Water Task Force would like to meet for a little bit to inform you about numbers associated with water rate changes.
It's very full, but send me your
I will.
request and we'll put it on the agenda.
Doesn't
We have
have to be long.
reserved transfers, who knows what else.
Okay,
And I'm assuming that if Greg can't be there, Andrea will be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we have year-end transfers we have to deal with.
Yeah. Right now, not many, so, but I hope I
Good
didn't just
news.
jinx it. I hope I didn't just jinx it.
Oh, geez.
But it's
yeah.
it's our last meeting of the month.
Yep, yep, yeah, no, Andrea can handle that.
And I wasn't aware that we were conflicting with the select board.
Yep, understood.
Sorry.
You want a motion?
Yeah,
Should we have a motion? I move the select board move into executive session for Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. If an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, and not to return to open session.
second
Second.
discussion. Becky,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Yes.
Brian, John,
yes.
Anne says yes. Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie. There we go.